That's Chris and me. Wayne,
Hey.
say hello to you. Hi, everybody. This is Michael Gibbs, and that was Christopher Johnson, my fantastic Chief Operating Officer. And we're so excited to be here with you today for day 4 of the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate 2022 course curriculum. This is designed to prepare you for AWS Solution Architect certification. This is because this is an AWS full course tutorial, and this is a free AWS course that's designed to help you in your cloud architect career. Obviously, we'll talk about some AWS career tips. We'll obviously talk about some cloud architect training or solution architect training or cloud engineer training, because I'm sure that somebody will ask me for this. And this will prepare you for either the SAA CO2 exam or the SAA 3 exam. This is an AWS Cloud Computing full course as it pertains to passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate exam. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I've been working in technology now for over 25 years. The vast majority of it as a cloud architect, network architect, enterprise architect, and I've loved every last minute of it, although I did have my engineering days, and they were fun too. I've spent 2 decades helping people get their first tech job or get promoted in tech, and I want to help you get started in your career as well, get promoted in your career, or have the best technology career in the world. Before we begin, I want to go over a couple of things. On Thursday, please join us for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. And on this webinar, I'll talk about how to get your first cloud architect job or solution architect job. And if you want to know how to get your first cloud engineering job, you can ask us questions and we'll help you there. It'll be live, it'll be on Zoom. I'll talk for about an hour. And then after that, guess what? You can ask questions on Zoom for an hour. And the reality is, if it runs longer, Alonzo from my team will help you build your best career as well. And he's completely familiar with everything we do, how we do it, and why we get our people to be so successful. Join us for the LinkedIn resume workshop. Our students don't need to apply for jobs. Our students get harassed. I want to hire you. I want to bring you in for an interview. I want to bring you in for an interview, bring you in for an interview. And when it comes to getting your first job and you lack experience, you can't apply because HR will basically say no. But if you get people to come to you and they can put your resume directly in front of the hiring manager and you can show the hiring manager that you're competent, you can get hired. So my students get attacked, literally speaking, with regards to interview requests. And my students' biggest challenge is saying, I'm not ready to change my job yet, but let's talk 6 months from now. So we can do that for you too in our LinkedIn and resume workshop. Now, you'll notice that when we're teaching this training, we're biased towards teaching you the concepts. What is the technology? How does the technology work, and why you should use it? And here's the reason. For cloud architects, we design, present, and sell, and we can do nothing without understanding the technology. Now, who are the people that we rely on as cloud architects? Those super smart technical people, the cloud engineers. They need to know a lot more than configuring too. They need to know what is the tech, how does it work, how to use it, and then all the technical details. That's why we've given you 2 additional things in this course. A completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate book and some hands-on configuration labs so you can do them in your own time. When you know exactly what to do, it's very easy to find the configuration guide and do this. Remember, I'm an architect. So I'll be teaching this from an architect's perspective. And I know there are others architects out there with different careers, but I want you to understand why I'm doing it this way. This is my world. This is my career. And I've been helping people get hired, engineers and architects, for decades. And here's the thing. When you know what is the tech, when you know how the tech works and why organizations can use it and explain that to the interviewer, you'll get hired for engineers and architects. Now, obviously, there's different job competencies, and we need to trade for those. So I still want you getting hands-on. For those engineers and admin people out there, get hands-on. Do those lab demos. Please do so. But just understand that I'll be answering questions from an architect perspective, because what am I? An architect. So kind of keep their understanding that as we go through the program. So I wanted to tell you about something, one last thing that we're really excited about. I've asked my team to determine what is the lowest cost that we can do and how long we can sustain it, and they've come up with 30% off. So for a little while, not forever, but for a little while, we're giving you 30% off of every program we have using coupon code POTENTIAL. When you get your first Cloud Architect job, join our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. When you get your first Cloud Engineer job, join our Cloud Engineer Career Development Program. And we're giving you 30% off because we know the inflation is sky high right now. And we want to increase your salary so you don't have to worry about inflation ever affecting you again. So that's what we do. So let's get into the training. Let's get into the fun. Everybody do the following. Please give me a hashtag AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate 2022 in the chat box. And please also, while you're at it, give me a hashtag or your name or tell me where you live. And then we're going to get to begin. I'm here in Port St. Lucie, Florida right now. And while we're at it, I'll give you that hashtag one more time. Hashtag AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate 2022. So here we go. It's coming in, and then we'll begin in about 5 minutes. This will give people a chance to join us. Make sure you subscribe to us so you don't miss anything. I'm going to be giving you guys a lot of articles very soon. So please follow us. LinkedIn, join our email list. You'll get so much free training coming your way. Mr. Gee, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Go Cloud One, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. Paris Tallman on Twitch, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. Leonardo Souza's over there in Germany. I love that. Derek is in Cape Town, South Africa. Fantastic. We have lots of students there. Angelica, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. Effie Tamiz, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. Oh, Palm Springs sounds pretty nice right now. Leo Paredes is over there at Sao Paulo, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. I'm loving this, loving this. Brian McCool in the Philadelphia Metro, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Carl, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. And Alonzo, my good friend, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Oh, Damien is over there in Kingston, Jamaica. Fantastic, my favorite place. I was listening to Damian Marley last night. Was also eating some Bambi while I was at it, and I drank some turmeric tea for dinner. But that's neither here nor there. Devin Moore, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, and Tracy May out there in the Bay Area, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, and Carl's over there in Denver. I'm loving this. Red Shores, California Forest, fantastic, and Rohan Fernandez, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. So, clouds to the moon, great photo there. AWS Certified Solutions Architect 2022. I'm not sure what those cool little emojis are, but they are cute as can be. Seattle, haven't been there in a while. Virginia's in San Antonio, Texas. And Derek, I'm so happy to see you back in the Bay Area. Charles, AWS Certified Solutions Architect, and Jim, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Oh my, I forgot you were in DC. Derek, you're in Atlanta? Why was I thinking you were in the Bay Area? Wow, we got to meet someday, Derek. I like to go to Atlanta all the time. And Derek, you know exactly how much I respect you and how I think of you. Mandu, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate from Toronto. I love that. And Robert Welch, an incredible cloud security architect, AWS Certified Solutions Architect 2022 over there in Dallas. Worm Blue Red, like pop quizzes and cat emotes. Follow us on Twitch for both. Let's go. Here we go. twitchtv.com/GoCloudCareers. And yes, chill with the cats. I love that. I love that. I love that. Ellen in St. Petersburg. Fantastic. Magenta, East London. Haven't been there for a little while. Terry, Mr. Gee, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. And let's end on Miss Eric and Lee. Roy, Illinois. Fantastic. There's no better place in the world with cats and tech. Let's go, GCA team. Yes, I agree with you. Furry friends and tech. Whiskers in the clouds and cat hired Tech D47. I'm so with you, so with you, so with you. And Tech D47 and True. Yeah, we love our cats around here. We really do. Truthfully, I love parrots. I love dogs. I love anything with fur or feathers. Although I'm really getting frustrated with all the rats and mice and rabbits that like to come to my house because my cat likes them too. So there is that. That's the only challenge with the cats is they got to scratch everything they possibly can. So let's get to the content. Yesterday, you'll recall, we were working on identity and access management. We talked about authentication. Who are you was authentication. And if you had not seen that, please go back. We discussed a lot. Well, we've got somebody in Bamenda, Cameroon. Fantastic. We actually have an employee, Eddie Petrick Hem, who's also in Bamenda, Cameroon. So fantastic and welcome, welcome. So authentication is who are you? Authorization is what can you do? So here's the thing. Somebody knocks on the door. Let's say we're going to have Derek Houston knock on the door. He's here. I haven't seen Derek in a little while, and wow, I really like him and respect him. Derek decides to knock on my door, and I see Derek, I haven't seen you, and I give him a big hug because I'm so happy to see him. I then say, Derek, here's the key to my car. I said, Derek, while you're here, I've got a cabinet full of good wine and Macallan 25, Macallan 18 if you like a good scotch. Here's a guest room, and welcome, welcome, welcome. So Derek decides that he wants to use any part of the house. He does it, and I'm thrilled. He has a good trip here. That is authorization. Now, at the same time, somebody across the street that I've never met before in my entire life knocks on my door and says, can I come in? And I say, yes, you can come in. Please stop in the foyer, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And then they say, I have to use the bathroom. And I say, sure, I'll have somebody escort you to the bathroom. And they say, can I get a drink? And I say, no. And they're not allowed. That's authorization. So authentication, who are you? Authorization. And note, Derek was allowed unlimited access, unfettered access. And this person I didn't know was like, here, I'll walk you. So when it comes to security, that's what you need to do. You give access to the people that need to have it, and you block access to the people that don't. So now you know what is authorization. So let's go through authorization. It's a process that determines which specific access or privileges you'll give to someone. And you can associate the policy with users, groups, or roles. I'll give you an example. Abigail Marks, I know her real well. She's recently joined GoCloud Careers, and we're really excited to have her. Abigail Marks needs access to a lot of the systems. Abigail Marks, therefore, has access to almost everything. Here, you can do this, you can use this, you can use this, you can use this, you can use this. And I could imagine she's somebody that's so special, for example, that I created permissions just for her or her own user. I could do that. That is, related to a user. Now, I could say, Abigail Marks is great, but Leo's great, and Chal is amazing, and Eddie's amazing, and Chris is amazing, and Alonzo's amazing, and Leo's amazing. And if I'm forgetting anybody, I'm sorry right now, but because I'm teaching live. So I could then say, these are my GoCloud Career superstars. And they can all have the same privileges, which would be the same ones I give to Abigail. And that way, I'd create the group GoCloud Career Superstars, and I'd invite all these amazing people to it. And then they would have the permissions in the group. So that's what we're doing with regards to authorization. Now, when we're dealing with this, we're going to have an IAM policy that's going to be written in JSON or JavaScript object notation. Now, here's the good news. Default user policy. No access until you give it. Isn't it great? No access. Here, you can access this. Sure. You can access share. So as the person's role grows or your trust grows, you can give them more access. And, I'm not someone that writes a lot of policies because I don't really get hands-on anymore because I'm an architect. But, for the engineers and the admins that are going to work with this, you do need to understand this. So let's think about what a policy is going to look like. It's going to look like something. You're going to have an effect, which is, do you want to allow something or deny it? And then you're going to have, the service is going to be, what is it you're trying to access? An S3 bucket, a virtual machine, or an EC2 instance. And then the resource is going to be exactly the thing that we're talking about. The exact full Amazon resource name. As you can see here, we've got some. ARN, AWS, IAM, some numbers, user, and then we added a wildcard. Now the action will determine the permissions of the user. And then we're going to have a condition which is optional. Hey, allow this subnet. This can be accessed at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And that's really what we're talking about. And there's going to be lots of ways we'll get into these policies. So I like to look at authorization this way. We've got a user over here. They're authorized for something. It means they can access whatever they're authorized for. So we need an IAM policy to basically do this. No. What if you're not a programmer like me, but you still need to do it? Does this mean I can't use or create very simply some IAM policies or identity and access management or authentication, authorization, accounting policies for on Amazon? No. Even a non-coder like me can do this in a matter of minutes. And I'll show you how you tell you the possible options. So when it comes to IAM policy, it's about determining who can access what. As I mentioned, we're going to be basing it upon the Amazon resource name, but we could provide access to all resources or something with a wildcard such as the star or the asterisk. Now, when you deal with AWS policies, you got, realistically speaking, two main versions. AWS managed policies and customer managed policies. Now, let's think about this. Here's a customer managed policy. The chef comes in and you say, I want the best hamburger. I want you to use prime beef, and I want it to have this and this, the center temperature cooked to exactly this degree, and it's done by a master chef. AWS managed policy, kind of like a quick food restaurant, where they're pretty good at what they do. This is a level above the McDonald's realm or the fast food realm, even though that could be delicious as well. This is kind of the good restaurant one that's got a hamburger for you. Now, this is not the master chef that's going to create the world's best hamburger for you, but it's going to be a good hamburger. And AWS has managed policies that work for the large variety of use cases because identity and access management is pretty common, and most people have similar needs. So we're dealing with them providing a managed policy that's almost exactly what you need, or might be exactly what you need at almost no intervention. The customer managed policy is going to be as follows. You hire that chef. Now, I will tell you how you can create a customer managed policy without hiring the chef and hiring a really good cook too. We'll talk about that. But now you know the main difference. Typically think of main cloud stuff, main cloud services, etc., as cookie cutter. And you can always get better by doing it yourself. But there's where you're getting into the cost, effort, level, experience, requirement, etc. So let's talk about AWS policies. These are standalone policies made by Amazon, and they provide permission for services and functionalities, and they're optimized for common use cases. And they can be attached to different entities in our accounts, and they can be based upon job role or level of access. So let's talk about the main roles. Administrator access, like root user with a crown, the king or the queen, who's ever in charge. They can do everything. The next major predefined role is as follows. The power user. They can do everything except determining who's able to access your systems, what they're allowed to do and keeping track of them, and something called AWS organizations, which is just another way to break up your network based upon users and roles. So let's talk about creating IAM policies. How do you do it? Well, you log into the console. In the navigation pane, choose policies. You're going to see a wonderful list of AWS managed policies. Simple to use, updated by AWS periodically, and they can help you avoid the mistakes. If you are not a JSON programmer, use one of these, and you're going to be just fine. Now let's talk about customer managed policies. These are customer managed policies designed for the customer account. These policies are not going to be visible outside of the organization. And these are going to be custom made for users' needs. And you can attach these policies to entities inside of the account. So how do you make a policy, a customer managed policy? Here's the way. You want the master chef. You ask a software developer that's good at IAM. That's your master chef policy. You want the you want the quick, fast one? We go to the policy generator. It's like going to McDonald's or Chipotle, for example. I love Chipotle. I used to love McDonald's, especially Egg McMuffins, but I love Chipotle. I go into Chipotle and I say, I would like a salad with a double portion of chicken and some onions and some avocado and some red peppers. And they make it my way. Here's what the policy generator is. AWS has a page and they give you a questionnaire. How would you like it? What do you need it to do? And it creates a beautiful one for you. Beautiful one for you. Want to know the other way to do it really easy? Copy an AWS managed policy and have somebody just tweak it a little bit. Go to Nano VI or something like that, whatever your favorite text editor is. Take the 90% and add it. So we got the chef version, the executive chef, created from scratch. We got the policy generator, which is they ask you questions, kind of like a Chipotle. How would you like your salad or your burrito to be? Or we can take one of these wonderful AWS managed policies, and these are really good policies, and just tweak them a little bit, which is what you do if you're not a great software developer, but you know how to figure it out. What does the policy generator look like? It looks a lot like this. You go to the website, they ask you a policy type, they ask you to add some statements back and forth, and it'll spit out a configuration for you. Now let's look at what a sample policy looks like. Okay, we got a version effect. What did we talk about that before? The resource, exactly what we're doing in an optional condition. This is what you're dealing with a JSON sample policy. Not that hard to go to sudo, nano, vi, vim, open the file, tune it a little bit. On Windows, you could do it with the text generator. It's kind of no big deal. But the plan is we can tune them very easily, or get someone that really understands JSON to build you a beautiful one. So now let's talk about how applying the policies. We create a policy. I can create this beautiful policy that says, Go Cloud Careers Superstars. But how do I make that policy come to fruition? Well, again, I can do it for the users. But in my company, it's small. There's 7 of us. It's easy. But what would happen if you've got 200,000 employees? We're small because we're boutique, and we're really careful about making sure we get our students hired. So let's think about, what we're dealing with here. I can create the policy for the user. What happens if you've got 300,000 employees? 300,000 individual policies. That's not going to work. That won't scale. So everything's easy until you scale. Next, let's deal with a group policy. A group policy is I create a policy for all superstars, and then I add the users to that superstar policy. So let's look at what this looks like in a flow sheet. Here we go. We've got the account. This is the root account. The root account creates some groups called admins, and then adds John and Grace to admins. Got some software developers doing some coding for us, and we want them to have the same permissions. So we add Dave, Jake, and Emma to the group. We got a group of back-end test people. We add Mark, Joe, and Ben to the group. And there we go. Everybody's got access to the policies that we want them. Now, how can we make this better? We can use multi-factor authentication. What is multi-factor authentication? Something you have and something you know. Your eye scan, your iris scan, plus your password. You go to a bank and you go to a cash machine and you want to get some money out, and you stick in your ATM card. I don't know what it actually stands for. It's only called ATM. And then you enter your PIN, something you have and something you know. Same concept here. So multi-factor authentication, here's how it works. The organization is going to set up an authentication app, such as Google Authenticator, with a key. In your authentication app, and there's lots of them, or device, will generate a one-time password every few seconds. When the user logs in with the username and password, AWS is going to provide a challenge and say, what's the special code? The user will provide that one-time password, and poof, they're authenticated in the system. And that way, if your password is stolen, well, you're still good to go. Let's put it a little bit into action. Here we go. We got a user that signs into their account. The user's name is Teddy Bear. Now, the Teddy Bear gets sent a message. Hey, Teddy Bear, what's your one-time password? Teddy Bear provides the one-time password. And now Teddy Bear is really happy in the house and really soft and has good fur, etc., etc. Yes, I like anything with fur feathers. It's clearly obvious. Now, let's talk about restricting access to the perimeter of the network. The perimeter of the network. So let's say you're going to build a castle, and you had the king and queen inside, and the princesses and princes and princesses inside, and the royal babies, etc. So you've got a castle filled with people that matter. Inside the castle, there's the crown jewels. Now, here's the thing. If I can just knock on the door of the castle, there's a chance that I can get in and do some damage. So castles have a giant wall around them. So if I had a castle that I wanted to protect, I'd put a 500-foot wall around the castle. I would. And it's going to be pretty darn hard to climb the wall. Now, I would also hire some snipers from some SEAL teams or from some SAS commandos or from Marines. I'd also hire some Israeli Mossad agents or some special ops guys, some Spetsnaz guys, somebody from a really tough background. And I'd put them on the roof with sniper rifles on the top of this wall. So here's what a firewall does, a modern firewall. A modern firewall is that 500-foot wall, meaning it keeps bad guys coming in. But modern firewalls, and we're going to talk about why we won't be using WAF in most cases, but modern firewalls also include intrusion detection. So imagine this to protect the castle. You got to climb up this 500-foot wall that's slick and there's nothing to climb. And you finally get there, and then you meet the fate of the Navy SEALs with their sniper rifles. That's called intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. You might be trying to climb up the wall. You see those Navy SEALs, and you're like, nope, getting out of here. That's intrusion prevention. Or you might climb up that wall, and then you're like, uh-oh, Navy SEALs, I'm falling off the wall, and I'm done. So that's what we're dealing with regards to perimeter security. So firewalls keep bad guys and girls out, bad actors, however you want to call them. They allow your traffic to go to the internet and come back. Or they allow whatever specific traffic to come in. So how do we secure our systems? We restrict network access with the firewall. So we keep them out of the network with our firewalls. Then we have some intrusion detection things. Then we have some network ACLs, security groups. There's certain stuff we need to the servers, et cetera, et cetera. But we need a firewall. Modern firewalls are adaptive. They're kind of like your credit card. Want to know what it's like? You go out there and you go to the Nordstrom store, or whatever store you like. From there, you go take a flight to London. From there, you take a flight to Dubai. From Dubai, you go to Hong Kong. From Hong Kong, you go to Brisbane. From Brisbane, you go to Sydney. You spend $5,000 in each location. Now, somewhere along that trip, your credit card company is going to block your credit card. And nothing's getting through until you call them. They're going to say, did you mean to make this transaction? Well, that's what modern firewalls do. Amazon has a web application firewall that you can use to secure the perimeter of the network. It is not adaptive in nature. You don't have the Navy SEALs there. It's not able to shut things down in real time. Now, when it comes to enterprise security, everybody needs a next generation firewall that's adaptive in nature, or for the most part. Now, granted, a website from iCat Cindy does not, but big businesses do. So know now that we're going to be talking about AWS WAF, know that most likely it's a critical part of your certification, but you won't be able to use in your real business because you're going to need a next generation firewall with intrusion detection and prevention capability. But let's talk about WAF. WAF is a web application firewall, meaning it looks at web stuff. HTTPS request. You can put WAF on your CloudFront distribution to keep things from getting onto your content delivering network. You can use it can protect an Amazon API gateway or REST API, or even an application load balancer. So it will block connection requests at edge locations long before they get onto your network. And you can use that a little bit with your other firewalls as well. Now, WAF is going to give you some relatively granular things because it's a firewall. Source address, destination address, protocol, port numbers, etc. And here's what happens. You permit what you want to allow in, and everything else is blocked. And when you need to, you can basically create a web ACL, which is going to be a stateful access control list on the firewall. It's a rule. Permit in HTTPS. Block port 22. That's all it is. Now, when you're using WAF, you can monitor some metrics on CloudWatch, etc., etc. How does WAF work? You enable WAF on the application or device. You create your policy that determines what's in and what's out. WAF will analyze the traffic based upon the policies that you've created and either permit the traffic in or block the traffic. And if a new attack occurs, you can manually create some rules to fix it. How about a next generation firewall? Which is why I said we use these. It senses an attack and it does stuff dynamically. It resets TCP connections, adds an access list, automatically. So there's that. But WAF will integrate with CloudWatch, so you can see a little bit about how it works. And I'll show you 2 different versions of it the way AWS would show you. AWS will tell you can put your WAF on your content delivery networks, your load balancers, gateways, and protect your systems behind it. How would it look like if we were going to do a pure AWS only security? Well, at least from a network perspective, at the edge of your network, somewhere along the line, you'd put Shield, which is a DDoS protection service, which we'll talk about a little bit, and your basic web application firewall. Then we would protect the subnet with a network ACL. Then we protect our servers with security groups. And then there's clearly a lot of stuff we've got to do here. And I've got a 30-minute video on how to secure your VPC or your cloud environment that I've already filmed that YouTube will be there. Now let's talk about preventing denial of service attacks. Now I'm going to tell you right now, preventing denial of service attacks takes 1,000,001 things. It's like an onion. Peel one layer, the next layer, the next layer, the next layer, the next layer. Because your attackers will breach one, and then you got to breach the next, and then you got to breach the next, and then you got to breach the next. That's what we're talking about. But first, let's talk about what is a distributed denial of service attack. Let's say in this particular case, this web application can handle 5,000 web requests per minute. 5,000. And here on the left, we got an evil attacker. And the attacker gets control, uses his or her server to infect a bunch of servers on the internet. And then the attacker then sends all those servers to attack you. So let's say this web server, for example, can do 5,000. And infected systems 1, 2, and 3 send 15,000 web requests to the server. Invalid web requests, they're even worse. They can crash the server. But just having this many web requests hitting the server is going to give us a problem. A problem. The server can't handle it. So if we could block these bad requests before they get to the server, great. And we'll talk about some DDoS protections that we use in a content delivery network that will be here. Now, this is way beyond the Certified Solution Architect, Associate, and Professional certifications, but it's part of security, so I'm going to tell you anyway. See this server where the web application is housed? This can handle 5,000 requests. If a DDoS attack is causing 20,000 web requests per second, and we have auto-scaling and we can add capacity, we could be still serving at 25,000 web requests and potentially grow as fast as the DDoS attack occurs. So we can also add some auto-scaling, which makes this really great. So how do you prevent it? Well, it's going to take a full security posture. Next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, access control lists, security groups, auto-scaling, host-based firewalls, host-based malware protection, hardening your host. I mean, I could go on and go on and go on. But one good thing is when we use a content delivery network, which we talked about on day one. So if you haven't seen day one, please go back and see day one so you truly get to understand what is a content delivery network. But when you understand what is a content delivery network, they do 2 things. The first thing is they cache information. So if there's 10,000 requests to go to www.gocloudcareers.com, again, 10,000 requests going to www.gocloudcareers.com, what can be going on is the request can go hit the cache, the content delivery network. And if it's already there, it can do 5, 10, 15, 20,000 requests per minute. So just then and there, the content delivery network may save you. But the content delivery network can do more. The content delivery networks are smart. And they can look at the web request like a half-open TCP connection and say, that's not a real web request, but I can crash the server. Don't let it on the network. So the content delivery network does a few things. It protects our servers by allowing caching. The content delivery network also does something else that's extremely cool. It drops the bad stuff before it gets to us. That's all it does. So the content delivery network can do so much. Now, the good news is every content delivery network you will use has their own DDoS protection. Akamai has theirs. Azure has theirs. Everybody. AWS has theirs. Google has theirs. And this DDoS protection is really solid because it's all about blocking the invalid stuff before it gets to you. Now, AWS has 2 kinds of DDoS protection services. They have Shield and Shield Advanced. They are both really good, but Shield Advanced is far better. Shield Standard is free if you're using WAF, but you're probably going to be using an enterprise firewall, so it's not going to be free. Shield Advanced provides good protection. I mean, real protection to your virtual machines, your load balancers, your CloudFront distributions, your DNS, any kind of global accelerators you have. And why is it good? It's adaptive in nature, like a next generation firewall. So do you want something that's static? Hey, by the way, Mike, you got a problem. You over here, you got a problem. Go do something about it. Or you want something that's, here's a problem. Like, here we go. If you want to be the martial artist, punch comes in where we go here, boom, and it's done. Or do you want to get hit, and call for 911 for backup? Help me, I need some help. So that's what we love, Shield Advanced. So let's talk a little bit more about Shield Standard. It's free when you use WAF, which you probably won't be using in a high security environment, because you'll be using a next generation firewall. And Shield protects against the most common DDoS attacks. According to AWS, they say 96% of most common attacks. So it does protect against SYN-ACK attacks, reflection attacks, HTTP slow reads, etc. It's box based on policy. Like I said, it's static. So it's the person that's dialing 911 while they're getting beaten up. They're trying to fight. Hey, I'm getting attacked. Hey, I'm getting attacked. How fast can you be here? 10 minutes? I'm going to be dead in 10 minutes. I'm getting attacked. I'm getting attacked. I'm getting attacked. By comparison, Shield Advanced is like the extreme martial artist that's really good at what they do. Hey, I'm getting attacked. Ding, ding, ding. Fight's over. Now, call 911 and have the bad guy arrested. That's more Shield Advanced. So Shield Advanced provides advanced substantial DDoS protection. It's available at an additional cost, and it's not cheap, but it's good. It provides real protection for load balancers, virtual machines, CloudFront, Route 53, and it's that intelligent attack detection and mitigation. It's dynamic. If it needs to deploy an ACL, it'll do it. It'll really help stop attacks. And it gives you good visibility and notifications for layer 3, 4, and 7 attacks. And even better, this comes with a DDoS response team 24/7, assuming the customer's on business or enterprise support options. So we really do like this. Chris, I think I probably need to answer about 10 minutes of questions right now.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. Let's give them some time to bring them in.
Okay.
So. The only question that I had seen was what is DDoS, but I think that came in right at the beginning of you mentioning DDoS.
Well, then if there's no other questions, the truth be told, we must be doing good. And I want to get everybody done today so they can enjoy their Saturdays. So that I'm the only one working Saturdays instead of everybody else. So let's keep going.
Let's talk about the lab demos for just a second, so that just in case there's anybody behind.
If any of you have just joined us, please understand this. When we're training, we're focused on making sure you understand the concepts so you can pass the interview. What is the technology? How does the technology work, and why you should use it? Jobs like architect jobs are not hands-on jobs. And you're going to have to touch the technology. And because of that, we have access to the lab demos so you can get some hands-on experience. And I want you all to sign up for the free lab demos. I still want you to do it, even if you're architects. I want you to do it, especially if you're engineers or sysadmin people. You definitely need to do it. But the point is, I want you to get hands-on, but it's really hard to find a course where you can ask questions about how things work. And that's why I want to teach it, because I'm trying to give you the skills that are more hiring related. What is the tech? How does it work? And why you should use it? But please get your hands-on time from the lab demos. And also, while we're at it, we have a completely free book to go with the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional. It's one book that does both. Please sign up. So it'll help you with the exam. It'll help you with your knowledge. And there's lots of hands-on lab demos that we've done in there as well to give you some configuration experience. Would one use AWS Advanced Shield if the CDN is in place? Well, first, you could use either version of Shield. It's just that if you want something that's good, you're going to be using Shield Advanced. What's the difference between AWS WAF and next generation firewalls? A whole lot. So let's look at two things. A next generation firewall is designed by a company that does nothing other than security. So you take Palo Alto, for example, let's say they've been there for 15 years. All Palo Alto does is security. And Palo Alto or Checkpoint or Fortinet, they secure the world's biggest enterprises because they make the world's greatest firewalls. Cisco makes them too. These companies just secure enterprises. And what are they good at? One thing, making the world's greatest firewalls. And they make the best thing. Now let's look at AWS. They have databases, they do some networking, virtual machines, containers, blockchain as a service, this thing as a service, this thing as a service. So right now, and there you go to generic jack of all trades, master of none with the AWS WAF and Palo Alto. This is what we do. And if you need mission critical security, this is what we do. Now let's talk about the physical, the actual functionality. AWS WAF is going to be like that hamburger that you get at a McDonald's. It's going to be a commodity device that's going to serve a good use cases. Now let's talk about one of these devices, purpose-built and not a commodity device and can let you have much higher level of security. Now let's talk about the adaptive ability. You've got WAF, and then we're going to talk about some other services you can add with WAF. Here you're getting attacked. Okay, this is like, now imagine you're getting attacked by a hacker. It's like being in a fight. Punched, you're punched, you're punched, you're punched, you're punched, and you're punched. And you got WAF, and you keep getting punched, and attackers keep coming through, and there's nothing you can do about it because the WAF can't deal with it. It's not adaptive in nature. And now you've got an industrial grade firewall. Poof, you get hit, you say, I'm not getting hit a second time, and then instantly you've got body armor on you, and then instantly you've got bodyguards around you that are here, that are taking out the bad guys. That's what a next generation firewall does. It's adapt, it fights back, and WAF can't do that. Now, Dylan, WAF is a logical firewall, and realistically speaking, WAF's purpose is different. All the firewalls we're talking about, next generation or not, are going to be, in this case, software-based firewalls that are going to run on virtual machines or the AWS Cloud native ones. So WAF, look at it this way. At the edge of your network, where here's your castle, you put up a giant wall. That's WAF. Now, behind it, you put an intrusion detection prevention system. At the top of the wall, there are your Navy SEALs that are armed, keeping bad guys or girls out. Now, the next generation firewall does both at the same time. Behind that, you're going to use a network access control list to protect your subnet. And behind that, you're going to use a security group to protect your server. And then on your server, you're going to do something else. Now, firewalls, Dylan, were always physical devices, but in the cloud, they're logical devices. But what protects the cloud providers' systems themselves? Most likely firewalls from these great companies such as Palo Alto or Cisco, but I haven't designed one of their environments in a long time. Chris, any others before we go back to the content that are related to the content?
No, that's it.
Okay, then let's keep going. Let's talk about, actually, before we keep going, can everybody give me the following? Can you give me a hashtag AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate in the box? Hashtag AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. And while you guys are doing that, I'll answer Dylan Williams' question. How much performance can you get in a virtualized appliance? It depends on the virtual machine it's sitting on. If it's on a 256 or 128 core virtual machine that's got a couple of terabytes of RAM, it's going to be relatively good. If it's on a 4-core virtual machine, the throughput's not going to be so good. Okay, I got it. AWS CSAA, McB, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, ASEA, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, Hand of God, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, Dan J, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, Robert Welch, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, Tracy May, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, and Brian McCool, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, Derek, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, Effie, AWS Certified Solution Architect. Juice Jones, love that name, AWS Certified Solutions Architect. And Derek, welcome back, AWS Certified Solutions Architect. Moses, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Love it, love it, love it. You guys are awake, alert, and oriented. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so. If you haven't told a friend about our free training, please do so. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell. I'll go see if I'm watching you guys right now. I usually get updated in real time. Please subscribe and hit the bell. Okay, let's talk about Amazon GuardDuty. Amazon GuardDuty is a service to monitor your accounts. Similar to kind of like the old intrusion prevention, or detection, I should say. And I want you to look at it this. GuardDuty is going to look at your CloudTrail logs, your DNS, your VPC flow logs, and it's going to look for patterns associated with things that are not good, and then it's going to send you a message. Hey, you may be being hacked. Yoo-hoo, wake up. You may be getting hacked. Yoo-hoo, wake up. You may be getting hacked. Doesn't do anything about it, but it can warn you that you may be getting hacked. Now that next generation firewall on the IDS, hey, you're getting hacked, fight back. So, that's what GuardDuty is. But those next generation firewalls have a lot more functionality than this. But this is a proprietary service that you can use to give you good identification of what's going on. More information, the better. Next, Amazon Inspector. It's an automated security assessment service that helps improve the security and compliance of your applications. Amazon Inspector will assess your applications for exposures, vulnerabilities, and deviations from best practice. And after performing the assessment, it's going to give you a detailed list of findings prioritized by severity. And then Amazon's security assessments will help you look for unintended things, etc., network access, mistakes. Again, now you got a computer telling you what's wrong. Now, the accuracy of this is not going to be great. Kind of like a doctor tries to prescribe. We want to prescribe an anti-inflammatory for somebody's knee. They're 40 years old, they have arthritis, and then we get a warning. No, you can't do that for high blood pressure. Well, yeah, we can, and we need to, so we ignore it. So anytime you're dealing with automated things, kind of like warnings in Linux, you got to look at them and say, does it matter or is it okay? So Amazon Inspector, a service that's going to give you warnings and information, which may be good or may not be good because it's automated. And automated is just that. Hopefully good. So again, good information. So we talked about GuardDuty, which is kind of like trying to tell you what's going on with your logs. We've got Inspector that's kind of looking around, what's going on? Did your applications done right, etc. So they're very different. Now let's talk about Macie. Amazon Macie is a fully managed data security and privacy service that uses machine learning and pattern matching to discover and protect your sensitive data. Macie will automatically provide an inventory of your object storage or S3 buckets, including a list of unencrypted publicly accessible buckets and buckets shared with accounts outside of your defined organization. Macie will then use machine learning and pattern matching techniques to select and alert you of sensitive data. Why? What do we need this for? If I told you the cloud gets hacked every single day and multiple times per day, and it occurs because people's VPCs, people's clouds, they did not secure their S3 buckets. How bad is this? We had millions of accounts compromised and personal people's information just a week ago or 2 weeks ago. This is a big problem. And it's not because someone doesn't know how to configure an S3 bucket. It's easy to configure it. It's because they don't know what to configure or why they're configuring it. Knowing how to configure something is nothing. We can all go to the manufacturer's documentation and say, look, how to configure, how to deploy an EC2 instance. We go to AWS and learn that in a second. The knowledge of the engineer, the knowledge of the architect is why do we need the EC2 instance? How do we optimize the performance of that instance? What kind do we need? What size do we need? And that's why you can't learn by doing, by just configuring. You need to learn how it works. And then afterwards, learn how to configure. That's the easy part. But for engineers and architects, it's all about learning how it works, why it works, and how we can tune it and make it sing. So if you know what you're doing and how to secure your buckets, you don't need a service to check them. But I like the idea of a service to check them because people make mistakes. Now let's talk about the service catalog. This is actually a really great thing. Really fantastic. Now in my youth, I was called Sniffer Boy. And my first job, I was given a sniffer, otherwise known as a protocol analyzer. And thankfully, in those days, we had hubs, not switches, which were very different. And I'd plug in my sniffer into a hub, and I'd say, hey, this guy's using 30% of our internet traffic with Napster. And this person's using 30% of our internet access with this. And this person decided to build the Bastion host, smack their hands before we fire them for the security violation, and we'd figure it out. Now, that was then, or we'd fire a lot of the people that made the Bastion host. Now, all organizations need to monitor what's on their system because, trust me, what you will find will cause outages and security hacks. And how do you do it? You're constantly monitoring. Now, AWS came up with a beautiful service called the Service Catalog, and all the other cloud providers have the same. Here, you've got a machine image. You've got a virtual machine that's been fully patched and secured and hardened according to organization certification. Put it there. You've got some software that your organization has deemed safe after testing it. Put it in the Service Catalog. You've got an architecture that you like, etc. You pop it in the Service Catalog. And then when it comes to deployment, your systems administrators, etc., your cloud admin people, your cloud engineers can pull the approved stuff and only deploy the approved stuff. This, I got to tell you, this Service Catalog is really, really awesome. Really awesome, and in many cases can be very transformational. It's kind of like in the data center. Here's your golden virtual machine. Build it off of that. So I really love this. So basically you have a Service Catalog, you've got some form of an infrastructure as code thing, and then you can deploy your virtual machines directly for it. And that's why I really love these kind of things. So we talked about the Service Catalog. Let's talk about the Systems Manager Parameter Store. Another component of keeping your system secure is managing your passwords, database strings, and licenses. This information, if you get somebody's information, can really damage a business. And AWS provides a lovely solution for secretly securing secret information. AWS provides the Systems Manager Parameter Store, and it's a hosted, serverless environment for storing your passwords, database strings, license codes, or APIs. And this is really fantastic because you can store it in a secure environment. Because you don't want to do what I've seen done in my life. Sticky notes with passwords, or a text file in your phone, or the person's phone has account, username, and password as if it's a phone number. You don't want that. So the Systems Manager Parameter Store is excellent. For extremely sensitive information, you should encrypt your data in the store, which you should. So here's a place to provide and encrypt your sensitive data. It will separate your codes from your passwords. It will provide excellent means to audit access, and it provides a fantastic way to track passwords. Okay, now we're going to get into the fun stuff. We're going to get into AWS applications and services, but before we do, let's do the following. I can do 5 minutes of questions in case any popped up. Chris, did any questions pop up?
I think it popped up at the same time that you introduced GuardDuty or Inspector, whichever one you introduced first.
I think it actually came up right after that.
Okay.
Just in case, I'm going to answer it. GuardDuty looks at your logs. CloudTrail, DNS, VPC flow logs. It looks for patterns of behavior and it says, wake up, you might be getting hacked. That's what you're dealing with GuardDuty. Amazon Inspector is, realistically speaking, an automated service that's going to give you some automated assessment. Is your stuff good or not? No, it's automated. What do we know about automated assessments? Some are good, some are not. It's just background information. But here's the thing. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make. So it's still good. AMI golden image. Okay, here's what we're talking about. Let's say I want to make the server secure. Let's say I'm going to use an Ubuntu server, and here's the reason. Ubuntu Linux is the most common Linux in the cloud. When I first install Ubuntu, it's not secure. I need to install the basic minimum, and then or whatever I have. Then I need to patch it. Then I might need to update the kernel, add my drivers, etc. if I need to do anything special. Then from there, what I need to do is going to be as follows. I'm going to say this service is listening, this service is listening, this service is listening. These services are attack vectors shut them down. And now I've got my beautiful server that's perfectly optimized. Now I can make an image of that, which they call a golden image, and then everybody else can build directly off of that machine. So now they're not going to take a basic Amazon machine Linux machine information. They're going to use this, which could be based on whatever Linux you want, whatever patches you want. And we can do this for everything. Build a basic standard image for our database servers. Build a standard image for our web servers. And that way we've got something that we know is good, that's built, secure. We know exactly what the patch level is. And that way when we go to install other applications later, we're not going to have any problems. Great question there. Okay, well, if there's no more, is the golden image to then put into the service catalog? Yes, exactly. So then you can use things directly out of it. And the last person, is it possible to be a cloud engineer for 2 years and then transition to a cloud architect? Look, there's no point in doing that. If you want to be a cloud architect, become a cloud architect first. If you want to become a cloud engineer, become a cloud engineer first. I've got people every day that have never worked in tech before that are getting hired as cloud architects with the right training. Now you can go become a cloud engineer. And if you want to be a cloud engineer and you like to build things, I strongly encourage you to do so. And you'll love it. But if you want to be a cloud architect, becoming a cloud engineer is not a strategic advantage. It's somebody else's job. And what you'll have to do is do 2 years of working as a cloud engineer. And then you're going to have to unlearn all those 2 years of being a cloud engineer and then learn how to become a cloud architect. So if you want to fly an airplane, don't go to law school. That's what you're asking me. Is it possible to be a cloud engineer for 2 years? You're going to need complete and total retraining. So train for the job you want. You want to be a doctor, don't become a pharmacist. Just don't. You want to be a cloud engineer? And I strongly encourage people to become cloud engineers. It's wonderful. Wonderful for people that want to do that job. But if you've been a cloud architect, it's that. You got to train for your job. Working as a flight attendant for a couple of years is Eugene, and he's a wonderful cloud engineer. Does not make you prepared to fly the plane. It's a different job. So train for your job, not somebody else's. Okay, let's get to AWS applications and services. Now we're going to be talking about SQS, SNS, SWF, and yes, I hate acronyms. Elastic MapReduce, Kinesis, Elastic Compute Service, Elastic Kubernetes Service. We'll probably touch Elastic Beanstalk, CloudWatch, CloudTrail, AWS Config, CloudFront, Lambda, Step Functions, Rekognition, CloudFormation, and Certificate Manager. That's what we're going to be talking about. We'll first be talking about Amazon SQS or Simple Queue Service, a wonderful proprietary queue service if you only live on one cloud. If you use multiple clouds, guess what? Don't use this. Use Apache Kafka on all your clouds. But if you're only on one cloud, and you shouldn't be on one cloud, 87% of customers are not on one cloud, they're on two clouds, and 97% want to be on two clouds by the end of the year, then realistically speaking, this is not a good option for you because you need to use the same thing per cloud. But if you're on a single cloud, Amazon Simple Queue Service is a fantastic pre-made queuing system. And it enables you to segment and decouple your application architectures to improve scalability, remove system bottlenecks, and it's a great service in all reality. What is SQS? It's a simple message queuing service which provides temporary message storage. Therefore, Simple Queuing Service enhances application availability by keeping messages from being lost. It provides transient storage, realistically speaking, a default queue retention of 4 days, but you can keep messages in there for extra 14 days. SQS facilitates right sizing of application. Let's say it's a 3-tier application, web, application, database. And the web stuff was trying to send messages into the database as fast as it can, but the database was too busy. You'd have to use a giant database server, maybe with 128 cores and 6 terabytes of RAM and RAID arrays of block storage. Or you could implement a queue, take it, dump the messages in the queue, and now all of a sudden the database is ready. Here you go, database. Here you go, database. Have you ever gotten on an airplane recently? Anybody gotten on an airplane recently? And they don't just say, everybody run into the plane at the same time. They say, people with handicap, go first, and elderly people. Then this person from the back of the plane, this person. It's a queue. Now in England, they'll say, hey, form a queue. But if you're not in England, they'll basically say, get in line. So let's look at how some of these things could. So simple queuing service, web server, app server, message goes to the database server. And here's an example of putting the queuing service and the notification service in the same case. Here we've got a customer that wants to make an order. They go to the web server. They go to the app server. And then they go to this SQS Que, and the messages sit here until the database is ready for it. Somebody in my team can address Eddie's question and thereby providing links and coupons, etc. So now we're dealing with SQS. We've got a queuing system that's pretty fast. So we've got two kinds of queues. We got the standard queue, which is super fast. Fast as the messages come in, that they can be drained, they're drained. Now that's the fastest. It's going to be the most scalable, and every message delivered once is considered best effort delivery. Message may be out of order. So think about it. Message 1, 64K. Message 2, 2 gigs. Message 3, 4, and 5, and 6, 64K. You might get messages 1, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 out before message 2. That's a standard queue. But what if you need it to be message 1 gets put in the database before message 2, before message 3, before message 4? You can do that too, but that's going to be called a first in, first out queue. And we can do this with SQS, and it's still going to be good performance, but it's going to be much slower than the other stances, because now we're adding structure to it. And when we add structure, we slow things down, even if we make sure things work better in certain ways. So first in, first out guarantees the delivery that the messages will be processed in the order they'll be received. You call for help support, and they wait you on hold. Please be certain your message will be answered in the order they'd be received. That's a first in and first out queue. Now, you may hear the term dead letter queue. You may see it on your exam. So what is this? Well, it all comes from mail delivery. They used to have people, I'd send a letter to Chris. I want to send a letter to Chris. I run the letter. I write it down with Mike's handwriting. The mail people look at this, and they drop it on the way to the Chris. So they then stick it in a box called the dead letter queue and try and figure out if it can be delivered later. We can do the same thing with SQS. If a message doesn't get put in the database for some reason, we can keep it in the dead letter queue and then go back to make sure the business doesn't lose the order, etc. So let's talk about SQS, how it works. So the message is going to be sent from the computing platform to the queue. And after the message is in the queue, it's going to be scheduled for delivery. If the ultimate destination is busy, the message will stay in the queue until it's processed or the time's out. Now with AWS SQS, which is a really great queue, it can stay in there for upwards of 14 days. 14 days. And as soon as the system is ready, the message will be pulled from the queue. Let's look at it visually. Here we go. We're sending it into the queue. The queue is the store. It sits in the queue. The server, the receiver says, I got it, takes it out of the queue, and then it, literally speaking, it removes it from the queue so it's not there anymore. Like I said, this is a really great service. You're going to need a queue somehow. It's whether you're using a Kafka queue across all your clouds or an SQS queue in an AWS cloud. When are you going to use AWS SQS or simple queuing service to assist with capacity planning as well as application scalability? SQS is fantastic to make sure messages are not lost. SQS enables you to right-size your application so you don't need extra CPU and memory resources because we can smooth it out. SQS can actually be used to trigger auto-scaling. Wow. Normally, we trigger auto-scaling into CPU utilization or memory, whichever we write our policy. But we need services, and there's messages in the queue We can look at the number of messages in the queue and say, hey, we need more compute capacity, add capacity, scale out, which is really great. So now you know all about Amazon SQS. So now let's talk about Amazon SNS, or Amazon Simple Notification Service. Amazon Simple Notification Service is a managed messaging service to deliver messages between systems, between people. And it's used to decouple messages between microservices applications. It's used to send a message to a systems admin, an email, or a push message to your device, and it facilitates communications between senders. So, Chris, everything going on there?
I don't know what that was. That was weird.
Okay. So, just making sure. I figured you might have something to say. So let's talk about facilitating communication between senders and receivers. Here's what it's like. You sign up for an email list, right? And then you get emails. Publisher, subscriber. You're the subscriber to the email list, and poof, someone sends you something. So SNS consists of two components, publishers and subscribers. Publishers can communicate by sending a message to a topic, and subscribers receive it. So there's this. So let's look at this. And we can also use SNS to what's called fan out messages and also send them to where they need to be. So here we've got a publisher who publishes to a topic. The queue can be subscribed to the topic to do something. The Lambda function can be subscribed to the topic. We can have an email notification coming out of this and an HTTPS notification. Now you know what we're talking about over here. SNS platform functionality. SNS is a high availability platform that by default runs across multiple availability zones. So SNS can be used to fan out messages to a large number of subscriber systems. SNS allows the creation of filter policies so that things and people and organizations only receive what they need to, and SNS will encrypt the message. So it's pretty great for the specific use case. Now let's talk about some common SNS use cases. SNS can send a notification when a predefined event occurs. Hey, every system admin, your CPU is over 80%. What do you want to do about it? SNS message fan out. It can take a message from one system and distribute it to multiple systems. And it also can do a mobile notification. It can push some notifications to your cell phone. Chris?
I have no clue what it's doing today. It wants me to be on camera, apparently.
Let's do this.
I'm just gonna remove myself from the stream.
But before you do that, let's do this. Let's give you 2 minutes to figure it out. Roll a commercial for 2 minutes for that introductory thing. That'll give me 2 minutes of a break. You can figure this out, and then we'll go back to it.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay. So 2 minutes, everybody.
It's giving me my screen time for the week.
And then we'll come back. Please don't go anywhere.
All right, we're back.
Okay, we're all back. We're ready to do the fun work. I gave Chris a couple minutes, a chance to do troubleshooting. Look, I always like Chris around. Chris is amazing. But I wanted to make sure we weren't popping in, popping out, distracting anybody.
Yeah, and sorry for if I looked like I was lost in translation. I'm multitasking back here, so you probably caught me with a deadpan face while I was reading an email. So anyway, hopefully
behind the scenes now is so much. Moderating comments, looking at comments. You guys are sending me emails as we're going through, and he's trying to do it all to make you guys have a great experience.
Yeah. So if I pop back on screen, call me out immediately, Mike, because I probably look like again.
We'll do so.
All right, back to you, Mike.
Okay, back to the fun. So we talked about some common use cases for SNS, and now let's get into Amazon Simple Workflow Solution. And what is Amazon's Simple Workflow Solution? It's a workflow management solution. What does that mean? It enables you to coordinate tasks. Task 1, Task 2, Task 3, in an automated sorted place. So it coordinates the executions of tasks in a distributed application. So it pretty kind of cool. So Now you understand what we're dealing with. I'll give you an example. I upload a video. Made a YouTube video with my friend Imran on something cool, some kind of deep networking tech. So I upload the video. Now, let's say I upload 6K video in uncompressed format, which is what we record in. This 6K video in uncompressed format is now like 50 terabytes. I'm not joking. Our videos are like 50 terabytes each when we do uncompressed video or more. So now I send it up to AWS. I upload it. Next, we get it optimized with an H.265 codec to take it from 50 terabytes to 2. And this gets done. And then after that's done, I get the video transcribed by some kind of video translation platform. And then after that, I get the subtitles burned into the video. And then the video gets moved to AWS S3. And then I download it. And I'm done. So be able to automate that workflow so we don't have to people click here. Yep, got it in the bucket. Now send it here. That's what we're talking about. Now, I know we mentioned it yesterday, or when we talked about databases or the day before, but I'm going to do it one more time. AWS Elastic MapReduce. In a big data environment, when you take a data lake, et cetera, you're going to have information in a relational database. You're going to have it in an NoSQL database, a data warehouse, or object storage. And somewhere along the line, you're going to take this data and normalize it. What do I mean by this? Here we've got Evadoikia. And Evadoikia is spelled with a capital E and then all lowercase letters. Now on the next database, we've got Evadoikia in all caps. And the next one, we've got Evadoikia Cloud Architect Extraordinaire in the next database. All true and all great. Here's the problem. Now we want to run some big data analysis on it. We got 3 kinds of Evadoikias. Now, can you imagine how challenging this is going to be to work in this thing when we got 3 different Evadoikias? How do we know which one is which? So we have to normalize that data or map and reduce that data. Now, typically, we have somebody that writes a PySpark script, and they customize it for our data, somewhere from the data environment, and poof, it's good. But if you don't have anybody that can do that for you, AWS is a pre-made mapping and reduction scripting for you that's built upon a framework of tools like Apache Spark, Apache Hive, Apache HBase, Apache Flink, Apache Hudi, and Apache Presto. And, in some cases, it's less expensive because it's pre-made for you. Pre-made for you. So keep that in the back of your mind. Elastic MapReduce. Or have somebody write a PySpark script for you that can work on all your clouds all at the same time and stay out of the proprietary things. That's up to you, how you architect your systems, how your engineers want to build it. But, that's up to you as you're designing them. What's it look like, realistically speaking? You got one object storage. You want to basically run the same script in your object storage and put it as part of your data lake after the data has been normalized. That's all we're talking about. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is Kinesis. Now, this is more of the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional than the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, but I don't care. I want you to know it anyway because I want you to have the skills. Now, what I'm going to tell you right now is the beautiful Amazon Kinesis, and I love this service. I really do. But if I have 3 clouds or 2 clouds, and I'm on AWS and I have Azure, and Azure's got their own little streaming service, and AWS has their streaming service, they're not exactly the same. And if I'm going to speak to somebody, I want to speak to them in the same language. So in reality, in my world, I'm not going to use Kinesis anything. I'm going to be using Apache Kafka and using it for streaming, the identical policy across both clouds. So there's that. So keep that in the back of your mind. But I'm going to talk about Kinesis. It's a great service. It really is. And it's going to be part of the Certified Solution Architect Professional exam. And potentially, just in case you get one on the associate, let's do so. So Kinesis is a service for collecting, processing, and analyzing streaming data. Kinesis can collect, analyze streaming data in real time. So love this. Think about it this way. Normal way, get a lot of information, sit on the information, and a year later figure out what to do with it to make a better business decision. That's traditional. Streaming, Hey, I got information coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in. And then, guess what? Look at it in real time and make better decisions in real time. So streaming systems are really great. Now, Kinesis connect video streaming, audio streaming, application logs, website click streams, IoT devices. Hey, it's really cool stuff. It really is. So, it really can enforce business decisions. So why are we going to use Kinesis? To process large amounts of information in real time to make better business decisions. Better business decisions. So when we talk about Kinesis, we're going to be dealing with 4 platforms. Kinesis Video Streams, we're going to be dealing with Kinesis Data Streams, Kinesis Data Firehose, and Kinesis Data Analytics. Let's begin by talking about Kinesis Video Streams. Kinesis Video Streams is a Kinesis application specifically for video. So it will collect videos from multiple sources. It'll enable it to ingest it, store it, and index it in real time. So that's why we're using Kinesis Video Streams. So let's look at it picture-wise so you guys get it. We're going to take a video stream and another video stream and another video stream. And we're going to be then sending it to Kinesis Video Streams, and it can be processed for media processing, etc. Amazon Kinesis. Now let's talk about Amazon Kinesis Streams. Streaming data, everybody. Kinesis Data Streams is a highly scalable platform for real-time streaming data. It can capture real-time data and send to analytics application within 70 milliseconds, so it's relatively fast. It can capture gigabytes per second from hundreds and thousands of sources. This is great for financial tracking or location tracking or Internet of Things devices. And we can basically, realistically speaking, can ingest data and exploit the data with our favorite business to our business tools. What's this look like? It's going to look like this. We're going to capture our streaming data, send it to Kinesis Data Stream, send it to Kinesis to our BI tools, Power BI, Tableau, something like that we're going to, visualization tools, etc. Let's talk about some concepts as it relates to Kinesis Data Streams. Again, this is more certified solution architect professional, but I want you guys to understand it. Data producer, what is this? It's the application or whatever it is that typically sends the data records that are generated to a Kinesis data stream. The producers assign partition keys to records, and the partition keys ultimately will determine which shard ingests the data record. I know. We'll get there. So let's talk about what is the data consumer. This is the distributed Kinesis application or AWS service that retrieves the data from all the shards in the stream. Most data consumers are receiving the most recent data in the shard, so they get real-time analytics. So what is a shard? Since we keep using shards in our definition, it's just it's a basic unit of throughput. And lastly, let's talk about a data stream. What is this? A data stream is a logical grouping of shards. A data stream will retain data for 24 hours by default, but you can keep it for up to a year. Let's talk about Amazon Kinesis data streams, large event data collection, real-time analytics, gaming data, mobile data, etc. So it's pretty terrific. Now let's talk about Amazon Kinesis Firehose and what that actually is. It's a managed service to load streaming data into data stores, data lakes, or analytics. So all this data, drop it in S3, object storage, put it in Redshift. Now, why would we do this? And this is pretty cool. It's a fully managed, and it scales to match the throughput of your data, so auto-scaling, monitoring, etc. What I love about Kinesis Firehose is we can take the data and dump it into object storage. And we've got this information stored. So realistically speaking, our information is in object storage. Wow. Now our data science can really analyze that information, pop it into a machine learning thing that's developed, and make better business decisions from it. So we can use the streaming data to make in business decisions in real time, but we can use this Kinesis data Firehose to make long-term better business decisions with our data team, our data architects, our data scientists. Again, totally separate careers, but pretty cool stuff that they can do for us. A little bit of techie wizardry over here. We can have upwards of 10 shards per region. And if you need more than that, don't worry. You call AWS and open a support ticket and they'll give you more. And we can set up a policy to auto-scale the number of shards. Remember, just the unit of throughput, et cetera, to get people to their goals. Let's talk about a little bit more. We can set up Kinesis Data Center, a Kinesis Firehose from the console. It's basically setting up the sources and destinations. So here's another graphical example. We've got our data streams coming into Kinesis Firehose. We dump it into object storage, and we can use analytics tools right then and there. We can add some machine learning after the S3 bucket, before the analytics tools, whatever. It's pretty cool. Let's talk a little bit more about some Kinesis data Firehouse key concepts. What we're dealing with is a Kinesis data Firehose delivery stream. And the underlying entity of this is Kinesis Data Firehose. You can use Kinesis Data Firehose by creating a Kinesis Data Firehose delivery stream and then sending data to it. And of course, we're going to be creating records too. And realistically, the record is where we send the data. A record can be as large as 1,000 kilobytes or 1 byte. Now, when you're setting up Kinesis Data Firehose, we've got a data producer, which is what sends the records to the Kinesis Data Firehose delivery streams. So like, for example, if you had a web server that's sending its log data, this is your data producer. Now let's talk about buffer size and buffer interval. Kinesis Data Firehose buffers incoming data streams to a certain size. Lastly, let's talk about Kinesis Data Analytics, and then we'll move on to some other cool services. Kinesis Data Analytics is a managed platform to transform analyze streaming data in real time. Kinesis Data Analytics uses some built-in Apache Flink to process the data. Kinesis Data Streams, like all the rest of these, are auto-scaling. And data on Kinesis Data Stream can be queried with a standard SQL structured query language that you would use for any database. It's pretty cool. What does this look like? Kinesis Data Streams. We've got a data stream. We put it into Kinesis Analytics, and then we've got our intelligence. There you go. So let's talk about another service. Here's a service that's 100% proprietary that you probably shouldn't use. Amazon Elastic Container Service. What is this? This is a completely proprietary container orchestration service. So when it comes down to our containers, we're going to have two things. We're going to have what's called the control plane. Hey, container 1, container 2, all that stuff, it orchestrates it. Kind of like the conductor doing this and this with their things, and this knows the violinist knows how to play the violin, somebody else knows how to play the flute. It's the conductor, the control plane. In networking, the control planes are routing protocols. And then obviously we need a data plane. Where are your containers stored? And we can talk about virtual machines and serverless, etc. So the Amazon Elastic Container Service is a complete proprietary Amazon managed everything. So multi-cloud, when you get it off the cloud, don't use this. But going to be on your exam, so you need to know it. And realistically speaking, the Amazon Elastic Container Service is the orchestration or control plane. Now it's a fully managed service. And because of this, you can manage our containers. Now, why are we using our containers? For the following reason. They're lightweight. So let's look at what a container is and why we like them so much. Typically speaking, we've got a server. And let's pretend this is a virtual machine environment for a second. The server would have the hypervisor where we've got the host operating system. And then each virtual machine where we have listed as container would include its own operating system, its application dependencies, and the applications. But in the container environment, it's almost as if we're virtualizing the operating system. We're going to have a server, we're going to have a host operating system, and we're going to have containers that are all logically separated from each other, just like I'm showing you here. Container 1 is separate from container 2. Everything, the resources are locked out on the same thing. Kind of like a private VLAN in your data center. So in a VLAN, everybody can talk to each other, but in a private VLAN, nobody can talk to anybody in the private VLAN unless you let them. So that's what we're dealing with the container, which is why we love them. So when it comes to container orchestration, the industry standard is Kubernetes, But, here's a proprietary thing. You know how I feel about proprietary thing. Use a Kubernetes service, and then you can use it across all your cloud. So that's all we're dealing with. This is the control plane for it. So a little bit more on the Amazon Elastic Container Service. It's a fully managed container orchestration service. They say it's high availability by calling it 99.99% high availability. I'm not sure that that's completely high availability. To me, 5 nines is high availability, 99.999% of the time. This means ECS is available but 15 minutes per year. Is that acceptable for a business? 50 minutes a year? Not necessarily. For some, it's life and death, and people would die in 50 minutes of downtime, and others it's perfectly fine. So it's dependent upon the business requirement. Now, when you're using ECS, you can put your virtual machines on you can put your containers on a virtual machine, like I would advise you do, or a serverless environment, which you can do both, and we'll talk about them a little bit more. So what's it normally look like? How do you do this? And this is going to work with any kind of thing. You're going to have your container orchestration, which you can see is up there as Amazon Elastic Container Service. That's your container orchestration. Now, without Fargate, which is the way we normally do it, you build your containers, you stick them on your virtual machines, you put your virtual machines up and set them up, and you manage you manage your applications and infrastructure. Beautiful, the way we always have done it, and you are in complete 100% control. Now let's talk about the next one. If you wanted to use the Elastic Container Service in a serverless environment. So no matter what, you need your compute platform. So serverless means you're sticking it on somebody else's server that they manage for you. That's all it means. That's all it means. All it means. So we can use it with a serverless environment. And what does this really mean? It really means this. Here we've got our container orchestration. We stick in an environment where we create our own containers. We tell AWS what kind of compute capacity we desire, and it sits in an environment and we have no control what's going on with the underlying tech. Now, if you're in a serverless environment and the performance is degraded, you can't do anything about it because it's managed somebody else. It's but you can not have to worry about administration. So doing it this way can still be a good option for some. It's really about what you need to do and when you need to do it. So it's that. Obviously, serverless is easier to maintain, can potentially be cheaper, but you also lose something, and that's what you lose along the way. So when do you use it? Do you put it on serverless? Do you not do serverless? If you want controls, put it on your own virtual machines. If you think you're on the AWS cloud and might be migrating to the Azure cloud, put them on virtual machines. If you want to be just serverless and do less administration but have less control, put it in Fargate. It's a great solution either way, but I recommend you managing your own virtual machines. And that way, if anything you don't like, take your virtual machine, your Kubernetes cluster, move it to cloud, have it in 3 clouds at the same time. Make it party time. That's the highest availability environment you can create. So you'll recall that I said, here's your proprietary Elastic Container Service. I don't recommend you use it. Proprietary. Proprietary stops innovation. It may feel good for the short term, but then 6 months later, a year later, there's some other really cool innovation, and you can't use it because you're in proprietary stuff. You got to recode, reconfigure. So I try to avoid proprietary. And I've been doing it for 20-some years. Get off of this proprietary thing, please. So next, what is a great container orchestration? Kubernetes. Everybody uses it. I don't care if it's OpenShift. I don't care what it is. This is what we're dealing with, etc., etc. Kubernetes services. So now that you truly understand that, you know what we're dealing. Now, how could you do your Kubernetes? Well, if you're going to deal with a multi-cloud cluster, which you most likely would, you'd put in your Kubernetes control plane in your data center and your 2 clouds, and you would manage it yourself. And that's what I would do in most of my architectures. But if You want, and the reason, if you went to the Amazon managed system, they manage it. Now, can the Amazon Elastic Kubernetes service be used to manage other Kubernetes clusters? Yes, but why would you use it? And here's the reason. In a multi-cloud environment, you're using multi-cloud for diversity and redundancy. If AWS fails, Azure will still be up. But if you use a service like the Amazon Elastic Kubernetes service to use 3 clouds to be reliable, and Amazon crashes, guess what? You lose all your clouds. So again, another reason not to use it. But if you didn't want the headache of managing a Kubernetes cluster, and you didn't want to hire the professionals to do so, you could use the pre-made Amazon Elastic Kubernetes service, which is industry standard. So as long as you don't have any outages in your cloud, it'll work in your data center and cloud, etc. And if you have a problem with your service and you don't like it, by using the Elastic Kubernetes service, it's going to be real easy to pick up your containers and move to another cloud, or go back to your data center, or everyone in between. So what is the Amazon Elastic Kubernetes service? It's an Amazon managed Kubernetes service. That's it. So you can take your standard Kubernetes containers, move them directly to the AWS cloud without doing anything, because it's an industry standard Kubernetes service, which is why I said, I love it. It's great, but it's a single cloud, and so it's a single point of failure. So this is the industry standard. It's similar to ECS, but it's using an industry standard, so it's not proprietary. We can use it with virtual machines on our EC2 instances, or any virtual machine you want to call it, and we could also use it on Fargate. So here you go. Here's 2 different situations. We've got Amazon EKS. We can stick them in the virtual machines, otherwise known as EC2 instances, or in a serverless environment, otherwise known as Fargate. Okay, we're actually making some relatively good time on the content. Chris, I don't know how long it's been, but maybe there's some questions for me that I'd like to answer. Shannon explained the hypervisor. It was mentioned the other day also, but I don't understand. Okay, Shannon, you got a server. You buy it from Dell or IBM or whoever you got your server from. The server has 128 cores and 4 terabytes of RAM. Will your application necessarily use all 128 physical cores or 256 logical cores and 4 terabytes of RAM? Most likely not. So we could do this. We could buy a bunch of small servers from our data center. Server 1, 8 cores, 32 terabytes of RAM. Server 2, 4 cores, 128 gigs of RAM. Server 3, 8 cores and a terabyte of RAM. Server 4, 32 cores and 500 megs of RAM. We could do that. But here's the problem. In our data centers, we've got limited space. You want to hear something really scary? A server with 192 cores uses 3,000 watts. A server with 4 cores in a data center with magnetic drives can use 600 watts or 800 watts. So the point is by using a bunch of big servers, we use much less power. Now, I want you to also understand, Shannon, what is a data center? It's a building. What is a cloud? It's a data center, nothing more that's been hydrolyzed. So in the data center, we got racks of computers, thousands of them, potentially millions of them in these big cloud providers, millions of them actually. Now imagine each server is about as big as a pizza box for a compute server, not a file server. That's got much more thickness. But let's pretend you're dealing with a 1RU server or a TRU rack unit server, which is the size of a pizza box. By using big, powerful pizza boxes, we can put a lot of them in the single rack. Now, by using big, bad, strong, powerful servers, guess what else we can do? We can then chop those servers into little servers. So we might get 10 racks worth of compute capacity in 1 rack's worth of service if we do it right. So what is a hypervisor? You got a physical server. A hypervisor is software, basically very limited lean software that gets installed. And that supervisor enables you to create a virtual machine. And let's say your server's got 128 logical cores and 4 terabytes of RAM. Now those logical cores can do hyperthreading, which is virtualized themselves. So now we've got 256 cores. The hypervisor then enables me to create an environment where I say this server is going to take 512 gigs of memory, and 64 cores, and dedicated to this server. The hypervisor will then manage, I create another virtual machine. So you can think of the hypervisor as kind of like the broker of the compute power. Okay, I got a physical computer. The hypervisor says, compute here to server 1, compute here to server 2, compute here to server 3. That's what we're dealing with. It's software to chop up the physical server into multiple logical pieces. Can I explain the service catalog with a real-life scenario? I actually thought I did, Mandu, but I'll give you another one. Here we go. I have an application that's been designed, and it's got my special security systems, my special patching, all the special stuff I want. I pop it in the catalog, and the next time I need a server created, I ask the person to create it exactly as it was in the service catalog, as opposed to just, hey, here's what I feel like doing. I'm going to create a server. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Just means the standard of the server. Done all the time, the golden build, so to speak. Go Cloud One. What's the difference between ECS and Fargate? ECS, or Elastic Container Service, or Elastic Kubernetes Service, are the control plane. They're the conductor. They're like the air traffic controllers of the world, making sure planes don't crash into each other, because it's pretty chaotic up there, and the pilots will tell you they're flying all over the place. So each one of these things orchestrates where your stuff is done. Now, your containers actually need to be placed in a computing platform. They can either be placed on a virtual machine, or they can be placed in Fargate, which is serverless computing, which means your virtual machine sits on somebody else's server, and they don't tell you that it's a server. Okay, Chris, let's do a couple more. Okay, so here's the good news. We're going to get back to the content, because I don't want us to have to all work on Saturday. I should be the only one that works on Saturday, catching up from all the work that I didn't have a chance to do because I was having fun with you guys all week, putting my techie hat back on, and it's been fun, fun, fun. Please, if you've not done the labs, get them. Get them, get them, get them. And get them, and get the free book as well. Register for them. When you register for this book, I'm going to tell you, it'll probably take you 15 minutes to get it. So, don't email us 30 seconds later saying you haven't had it. If something happens and 15 minutes later you don't get it, send an email to info@GoCloudCareers. Well, first check your spam folder. And then when you're done that, if they send us an email, they'll have somebody personally send it to you. But we can't do that for everyone. So please use our automated systems. And if you run into a challenge, let us know. But after 50 minutes and after you're checking your spam folder. Before we get back to the content, please in the chat box type AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate 2022 in the chat box. That way I know you're awake, alert, and oriented and paying attention. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell of notifications. I'm going to check right now and see if you guys are doing it. I'm seeing some, but not enough. Please subscribe and hit the bell and tell a friend. Okay, I'm starting to see it. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'm seeing all these AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate 2022s in the chat box. It's making me very happy. Good to see you, everybody. Super thrilled. So let's talk about Elastic Beanstalk. What is Elastic Beanstalk? Well, it's a service for provisioning, deploying, and scaling web applications and services. Here's the thing. You upload your code, and the systems automatically deploy your systems. EC2 instance containers load balance. Here's your infrastructure's already deployed and load balance. This is automatic. 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 Do you want someone automatic cleaning your house for you? Did you ever buy an automatic robot to vacuum your floors and you realize, good, but wow, that maid in the hotel did a far better job. They know to clean everything, fold the napkins in a beautiful way. Well, automated everything is just that. Automated. Good enough, but not great. But here's what's good about Elastic Beanstalk. It enables people that are code focused to just deploy their code, and the stuff's going to be set up in the background for them, which enables businesses to focus more on their business and focus less on this kind of stuff. So Elastic Beanstalk works with the following programming languages: Go, Java, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Python, and Ruby. And basically what happens is you provide the code, and it will provision and manage the entire environment. And then afterwards, once it's up, you can manage it yourself, tune it, fix it, etc. And it'll monitor the health of your applications. It's integrated with CloudWatch logs. But guess what? It's automatic. And automatic is just that, automatic. And automatic tools can be useful, but they're not a replacement for humans. What's it look like? You take your user code, Elastic Beanstalk, auto deploys your web servers, app servers, whatever is in your code. Let's talk about logging. Logging. And this will be lots of questions on your exam on logging. I'm going to make this real clear for you right now, because there's two things that come up on exams and people confuse them. CloudWatch logging. Say it with me, everybody. CloudWatch logging. CloudWatch logging. CloudWatch logging. Now, the next thing which people confuse is CloudTrail. CloudTrail auditing. CloudTrail auditing. CloudTrail auditing. CloudWatch logging. CloudTrail auditing. So when we cover these two topics, I won't want you to confuse them. CloudWatch is logging, 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 logging. Think of it as the syslog file on a router or a Linux system, or the Windows event system logs. So CloudWatch is a monitoring service to monitor your AWS resources. CloudWatch provides metrics of performance. You can troubleshoot things, and CloudWatch can monitor applications that run on AWS. CloudWatch can work with built-in metrics and custom metrics. CloudWatch's built-in default metrics include CPU utilization, disk read-write performance in terms of IOPS, or input and output operations per second, and network utilization. So network utilization, disk performance, and CPU. Are you going to need more of that in reality? Probably. So if you need anything to know more, memory utilization, API performance, etc., you can set up CloudWatch custom metrics. Now, CloudWatch has a notification system that notifies customers and allows them to set events when certain thresholds are met with AWS services. We can use CloudWatch event, which is pretty cool. Something happens here, trigger a Lambda function to go fix it. Send a notification, an SNS notification, to one of the systems admins. Hey, go fix this, buddy. Hey, I've got a problem here. Amazon CloudWatch is available in two versions. Basic monitoring. This will give you information every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes. So there's that. Now, here's the problem. When you get information every 5 minutes, what do you don't notice? The CPU was at 100% for 10 seconds, and then it went back to 0. So when you get 5-minute information, you typically get an average or an aggregate. And I can tell you from experience trying to troubleshoot big things, when you don't get frequent data, you miss a lot. So if you need to really be able to make this work for you, when you need a lot more power, you can do detailed monitoring, which of course is available at an additional charge. And this will be much more like the syslogs that you're going to get on your routers and firewalls, and you're going to get data once a minute, but you're going to pay for it. And in order to do this, you have to enable detailed monitoring on your virtual machines, etc. Now let's talk about a CloudWatch event. It may also be called Event Bridge. It's very similar. Something happens. CPU hit 99%, and it tells you about it. It tells you about it. So it's going to become aware of whatever thing you set, and it's going to notify you so you can take corrective action as necessary, sending messages and respond, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of what we're talking about. So now you know CloudWatch was logging, 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 logging. So let's get to the new thing, CloudTrail, auditing, 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 auditing. So CloudTrail is an AWS service that helps with auditing. It provides an audit log that assists with risk assessment and compliance. CloudTrail will track the changes made in your account by a user, a role, or an AWS service. And CloudTrail is enabled when the AWS account is created. So CloudTrail will record events, and these events will be visible in the CloudTrail console. So what does it look like graphics-wise? And what can you do with this information? Look at it this way. You're going to get logs in system events from EC2 instances. You know, Abigail tries to log into my system, and she gets a welcome. Here you go, Abigail. And then there's this cat that my cat doesn't like outside. Terrifies my cat, Cindy. It's a beautiful Maine Coon, but it scares my cat. So when the cat comes, my cat hisses at it. And realistically speaking, so Abigail came, and I saw what she did. Now I see my cats, upset and hissing and not leaving the house. And I look in CloudTrail and I see, hey, that cat that's sitting like Joey's not here. Joey keeps coming back. And I think, how do I scare Joey away and not terrorize my little Cindy? So that's what we're talking about with regards to logging CloudTrail. A bank, they need to be able to show what happened. A hospital needs to be able to show what happened, and we need audit trails for that. Okay, now let's talk about AWS Config. So AWS Config is another automated service. And when you use automated service and realize the information you're going to get is going to be sometimes super valuable and sometimes absolutely worthless. And it's going to be up to the intelligence of the people on your team, the sophistication of the people on your team, the training of the people on your team to be able to look at these 30 alerts and say, nope. And look at this thing and say, yes, yes, yes. So Config is a service that enables assessment, auditing, and evaluation. It provides an opportunity to see what changes were made and by whom made them. When a change is made, AWS Config can send you a system alert. In many cases, this can be pretty amazing. It provides constant monitoring of your configuration, and will check these against your organization's policy. And if something occurs that's not in accordance with your policy, it will send you a notification. So here's the good news. In many cases, this is really exceptional. It provides a means to assist with change management. Hey, did something occur? So we can integrate it with CloudTrail to check the changes made so configuration changes can be reverted. So how does it work? Can configuration changes made? AWS Config notes the change and records it in a consistent format, which is essential. AWS Config will then check against the organization's policies, and AWS Config will notify the services systems admin should anything occur. So any of these services are great. Well, I'm hearing a lot of thunder and lightning. Hope I don't have a power problem. AWS Config. The configuration change is made, Config notices it, and it hits it sends the messages wherever you want them. Okay, content delivery network, something that I really love. We're getting into AWS CloudFront. I love content delivery networks. And AWS CloudFront is a wonderful content delivery network. And if you're using the AWS Cloud, chances are you're going to use it. If you're going to use multiple clouds, you'll be using multiple content delivery networks. Maybe the Azure CDN on Azure and AWS CloudFront on AWS. Content delivery networks are two things: private networks and caching services. And a content delivery network is a network to a group of distributed caching servers across the world. Content delivery networks cache information, reduce the overload on the servers, reduce bandwidth costs, and can really help our scalability and reduce our latency to improve our user experience. Content delivery networks are awesome, and they promote organization security by making sure that only legitimate requests can actually make it past the content delivery network. Content delivery networks in general also can actually terminate the SSL connections or do the encryption between the user and the end service. Often can be done, sometimes as well. And by doing this, they can further reduce the load on your systems. Of course, your load balancers can often terminate them as well, but the more places you can reduce the load on your servers, the better. CloudFront can dramatically improve your performance. Seriously, scalability, latency, and even availability. It's fantastic. See, here's what happens when a request is made. Your information is going to be sent to the local server. And let's talk about this, then I'll walk you through it. A web request is made to the local CloudFront caching server. I am in Port St. Lucie, Florida right now, and I go to www.gocloudcareers.com. I'm the first person in Palm Beach County and St. Lucie County that went to that website today. So I go to the website and my information is sent to me. Now, 10 minutes later, my brother's in my house and he wants to check out my new website, www.gocloudcareers.com. And my brother's visiting me from Philadelphia, and I'm super excited about it. So I asked him to check out my website. Now, I went to the website, and now he goes to the website. He hits the local CDN, the local edge location, and the information already is there, and it's sent to him like lightning. Now, my cat Cindy decides she wants to become a cloud architect. She's beautiful and very smart. She probably could be. And she uses her pause, www.gocloudcareers.com. And hopefully she didn't make any spelling errors because she's really great at creating spelling errors when she walks on my keyboard. And now she goes to the content delivery network and poof, she's got her information and she's really, really happy. If the information is there, it's called the cache hit. If the information is not there, it's called the cache miss, and it goes to the server. So let me walk you through it graphically. First request. Now over here, what we're dealing with now is we're dealing with cat photos that are stuck in the S3 bucket. And Cindy and her girlfriend Noni all look very similar. They have a very similar pattern. So they're very friendly. They like to exchange cat toys, etc., cat trees. They love each other, okay? So here we go. The client over here is Cindy the cat, my beautiful cat. And she wants to go see the Noni the cat photos. So Cindy goes to her web browser and she types www.nonithecat.com. Now, when it hits the CloudFront location the first time, there's nothing here. So what happens is the request is sent to the object storage bucket that's got the beautiful photos of Noni the cat. The bucket then sends the information back to CloudFront, which then sends it back to the client. Now, Chris comes visit me later that day, and Chris is a beautiful cat, Sunny. It's a beautiful orange Maine Coon. And Sunny wants to go back to see the pictures of nonithecat.com. So Sunny the cat goes www.nonithecat.com on her browser. Then she cleans her fur a little bit, and then all of a sudden, instantly, the CloudFront distribution provides the beautiful photos of Noni the cat. There you go. That's how content delivery networks really offload your server. I like cats, let's face it. I like all animals, fur and feathers. So now let's talk about caching and website scalability. Imagine now Cindy the cat, or I'm sorry, Noni the cat is really famous. Abigail takes some beautiful photos. She's an exceptional photographer, and she does some good editing in Photoshop and Lightroom. And now Noni the cat's got 1 million Instagram followers and 10,000 Twitter followers. And as you can see, that thunder and lightning is pretty close to my house. So now there's this. So now imagine 1,000 cats from all around the world want to see photos of Noni the cat. If the 1,000 requests come all from the same location, the web server only answered once, and all the requests are handled by the content delivery network. Now here's the thing. If Cindy the cat's if the cats are all looking for one photo, it helps a lot. But what if there's 10,000 cats and they all want to see a different photo? One photo is someone grooming themselves, and another photo is like someone playing with something with their little paws, and another photo is the cat rolling around on her back. Another photo is the cat sitting on her brand new cat tree. Another photo is the cat sitting on her mommy's new brand new computer's box, those kind of things. Now, the cache here is not going to help because it's all different information. So caches are good for frequently accessed content. So let's talk about CloudFront. It integrates with so many AWS services because it's such a good service and so critical to use. We will use it with our S3 buckets or our object storage for basically static content. We can use it with our virtual machines, otherwise known as EC2 instances. our load balancers, otherwise known as elastic load balancers, and DNS like RL53. CloudFront is often used to front end the static website, but we can also use it to front end an EC2 based website, meaning on a server, assuming a load balancer is there. So what's this look like architecturally? And hopefully that's the last of the really serious lightning, because I saw the lightning flash and heard the lightning at the same time, which meant it wasn't very far from me, less than 1,080 feet away, because there was no delay between the lightning and the thunder. Okay, so let's look at this. We've got our CloudFront distribution over here. It's pulling the static content out of our object storage, and it's pulling our really cool dynamic content directly out of off of our load balancer coming out of our virtual machine. Now, when we talk about CloudFront, we got to get a little geeky here, especially for the engineers of the bunch. So let's get a little geeky. There are some key concepts. We're going to be talking about distributions, origins, and cache control. Especially the engineers are going to need to know this. We architects need to understand it, but the cloud engineers really need to understand how this stuff works. When you set up your CloudFront distribution, it's going to be identified by a DNS name. And it's going to be an ugly name like Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta Echo Foxtrot Golf 11111.cloudfront.net. That's going to be a standard looking CloudFront distribution. And if you think you can remember that, no way. So, but that's going to be the brand new name for your website. So what you're going to need to do is you could give somebody the website Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta Echo Foxtrot Golf 1111.cloudfront.net. And I promise you, my cat Cindy is not typing that on the website. No, the cat's not doing it. Chris is not doing it. I'm not doing it because I won't even remember that. But I could create a CNAME record that says Pretty Kitty and map Pretty Kitty to that same long, ridiculous address. And then people just need to type Pretty Kitty in their browser, and they're going to get to the website of Noni the cat. Now let's talk about the origin. The origin is nothing more than where the content is located. So, if we've got a static website for Noni the cat, her cat photos and videos are going to be in an object storage bucket like S3. But what if she's using dynamic content? Well, that content will be sitting on your virtual machines, otherwise known as your EC2 instances. And that will be your origin. And the origin will always point to the DNS name, the fully qualified domain name of your location. Let's talk about cache control and how it pertains to scalability. So let's say each day, Noni the cat takes a photo. Noni the cat's photo today is her rolling around on her back. And she's smiling and she looks cute. So that's your Noni the cat. If that's the only photo for the day, and we keep the CloudFront distribution or content distribution for 24 hours, guess what happens? All day that content stays in the cache, and it stays there for 24 hours, up to 24 hours. That's great, right? Scalability, scalability, scalability. Noni's the cat's object storage bucket or her photo was accessed once, and the content's there for the whole day. Now let's say Noni the cat goes on vacation. And while Noni the cat's on vacation, she eats shrimp and takes a selfie. She finds a really good master chef who cooks her some salmon and takes a selfie. Then Noni the cat walks to the next seafood restaurant and somebody makes her scallops and she takes a selfie. Then Noni the cat actually is she walks over to the thalasar of the ocean. She grabs a fish out of the ocean raw and she eats it, and somebody else takes a photo. And now Noni the cat has 4 photos for that day. If the cache is 24 hours, people are only going to see the first photo and the cache won't even know. So if we frequently update our website, we have to reduce the cache time, which will limit scalability, but I'll show when Cindy the cat goes miss, or Noni the cat goes miss, to this, or whatever the cats do. That's what we're talking about. So cache control. Long cache timeout, very scalable. Short cache timeout, guess what? Less scalable, but more dynamic. So again, what this is driven by? The business requirements. It's all comes down to business requirements in the end. Now, yes, guess what? Its default caches for 24 hours. And realistically speaking, it gives you some reduced server load, good DDoS protection, faster speeds, and reduced data charges. But you can change it. Now, if any of you have worked with caches, you've seen them get corrupted and invalidated. There's a command that you can use to easily invalidate the cache. It's in the free ebook that we have. Should your cache get corrupted and you reset it, don't worry, you can do that. So let's talk about setting up CloudFront. You set up your web servers and you put your content on them. You create your CloudFront distribution. AWS gives you a challenging name. You can either accept the ugly name or make a CNAME record, and AWS will provision and set up your edge locations. I'll show you edge locations from a couple perspectives. Here's the way I like to draw things in boxes and squares. Here's your edge location. You see you've got your global AWS region. You got little boxes in these regions. They're your data centers, and your edge locations are where your customer picks it up. Another perspective using more appropriate graphics that my team has done for me. Here you've got your user. Your user wants to request some web information. The user goes to their edge location. If the information is on the edge location, it gets sent back to the user. If the user is not there, it sends it to the edge location. The edge location forwards it up to the regional cache. If it's not there, it sends it to the source. The source responds, copies it to the top edge location, and now future requests for that same content will be cached until the cache TTL wears out. Or time to live. What about private content? Say you're using CloudFront to serve a public website. You may have subscribers that want to do paid content or private applications. Well, you can set this up with CloudFront as well. The way you do this is a couple of ways. You could either set up an origin access identity and restrict your bucket or your content to certain individuals. You could use signed URLs or signed cookies. Let's talk about signed URLs. Basically, you're signing something with your key, your encryption key. And how long are signed URLs good for? Well, it depends on the way that you signed it. So if you signed it with your IAM instance profile, it can be up to 6 hours. If you use the security token service, the pre-signed URL can be good up to 36 hours. If you create it as a standard IAM user, it can be good for 7 days. If you created a temporary token, it's good until the token expires. So let's talk a little bit more about how it works. The content is cached. At the time we made these slides, there were 217 global planes of presence where you could actually access the CloudFront. I'm sure this changes all the time, so obviously check that on the website. CloudFront also helps with routing efficiency. And this is really what most people don't understand. In fact, if you interview most people and you ask them what is the content delivery network, they're going to read what they heard right off the AWS page. It's a network of caching servers. Here's the key. This is why this helps so much. So when the user reaches something on the internet bandwidth is not guaranteed, which means the traffic on the internet may get there, may not get there, and we have no rate of time. The content delivery network is a network, everybody, a network, a private network that's owned and maintained for the most part by Amazon. Now, it's a private public network, but let's look at what happens. Normally, your user would have to go across the internet to your website. And you could be dealing with 4 different internet service providers. With the content delivery network, what you can see here is your user jumps on an edge location and then rides the high performance AWS CloudFront network back to where your content is stored. So it takes your traffic off of the public internet on a higher performance, lower latency network. So the content delivery network gives you caching, but it also gives you that rock solid private network connectivity, which gets your information off of the internet and on a private network where you can get much, much better performance. You can also put like a WAF firewall onto this. And CloudFront, you can put your Shield on it directly, which again, Shield is a DDoS protection service. And it's a perfect place to put your DDoS protection services on your content delivery networks. They all have a great one. Cloudflare has one. has a great thing. Akamai has a great DDoS protection service. They all do. So what happens is your CloudFront distributions will only fire legitimate requests to your servers, blocking all the etc. But CloudWatch can also give you some encryption in transit, can inform your SSL TLS protocols. It can integrate with your certificate manager for your certificates, and it can really support server name identification and all these other certificates. So as you can tell, I love content delivery networks. Love them, love them, love them, love them, love them. And CloudFront's a great one, just like many other great ones. At this point, I think I've been talking for a little while. There may be some questions, so let me answer some questions, and then we'll get back to the content. Any questions from the audience? Well, Robert Welch, I do have a UPS for my main system, which is good for about 45 minutes. And I've got another unit one for my content, for my NAS system too. Is anybody still using Docker? Is it all containers? It depends the use case. You know, if you're running something in your personal system, you might be using Docker. And there are use cases in times of how and when, but you got an enterprise functionality, you're using Kubernetes. Because it's a standard-based thing that runs across all enterprises. It's like anything else, control plane. What's the difference between CloudFormation and Beanstalk? CloudFormation is an extremely proprietary infrastructure as code solution, which I never recommend you learn or use. I recommend you learn and use Terraform if you're a cloud engineer. Now, cloud architects, you will never touch that, so don't learn it. But for a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer, Terraform is essential. So CloudFormation is a full deployable infrastructure as code for anything. Elastic Beanstalk is sort of another little service that works with CloudFormation, templates, etc. Upload your code and go. But it's a different kind of thing. In one case, you're using typically Golang, for example, with Terraform infrastructure as code. Here, it's upload your Java, your net.net. It's a different kind of service. But it's a great question, and they are very similar. Please explain CloudFront and edge location. I just did that a couple of times, actually.
So that one, sorry, I had to come on screen because I removed myself completely. So that one was from 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
So
before we did it, but okay.
Okay. All right. I'm halfway here, halfway not, so I wasn't sure.
I understand that.
Bear with me as I find the next one.
And if it's taking a little while,
yeah, I just got to Robert's thing about UPS, so yeah, I'm behind. Yeah, they're pretty good. I'll let you address anything you want to address.
I will address the solution architect question that just popped up in there. There was a question in there, what do entry-level cloud architects do versus senior cloud architects? The same thing. The only thing is different. Here's an entry-level cloud architect. Design, present, and sell. Here's a senior cloud architect. Design, present, and sell. Now, at the entry level, people typically work on smaller designs. At the bigger level, we work on bigger designs. So an entry-level cloud architect might work on $1 million designs. A senior cloud architect like me might work on $1 billion designs and have worked on $1 billion designs. So at the entry level, it's about learning what to do and becoming a better architect, developing decent, better fundamentals. And as a senior cloud architect, it's about already having the solid fundamentals and just designing bigger things. Now, at the entry level, as a cloud architect, you're still going to be in meetings half of the day. And I'm going to bring in some entry-level cloud architects on a YouTube video one day, and we can ask them questions. But they're going to say they're in meetings, they're being mentored, they're learning, or they're doing this, they're presenting and selling. And at the senior level, you're going to be writing more white papers, writing more thought leadership papers, presenting at more industry conferences, being in front of the bigger C-level executives like CEOs, CTOs at bigger organizations. Like if you use Cloudflare and AWS, which is better to use, Cloudflare CDN or Amazon's? Well, I'm a little biased towards using Akamai CDN because for the most part, it's around forever and it is an exceptional CDN. But if I was dealing with the AWS cloud, I'd probably use their content delivery network CloudFront. It's a good content delivery network, and I would use on the Azure network either the Azure CDN or the Akamai CDN. Really care who Eugene is. Look, all these cloud providers are great, and all of their services are great, but with technology, we need to know that it's going to fail. So 2 content delivery networks is really what you need. Look what happened, half of India was taken down recently, and here's the reason. So much of it was on a single CDN. And the CDN had a BGP misconfiguration, from what I understand, that affected their ability to use DNS. Now, if everybody is on 2 CDNs across 2 clouds like we would recommend, guess what? Content delivery network would go down, DNS would point everybody to the second systems, everybody would have been happy. So again, they're all pretty great. Akamai has always been my preference, but they're rock solid. If the cache is corrupt, can I take it? I take it that it can be picked up by the likes of CloudFront. Probably not. Probably not. You're probably going to just notice things aren't working. Hey, I managed to get an interview with a company to set up infrastructure for 5G networks. Wonderful, Darius. I'm so happy to hear. I'm really happy and grateful to have you here. Ashley Cook, Mikey stated that I should stay away from the AWS Advanced Security cert. Definitely. And mentioned you would advise me on what the alternatives. May I ask him what the alternatives are? Yes. I actually yesterday said I needed you to tell me what job you wanted to do in security, because there's different certifications for ethical hackers and there's different certifications for cloud architects. So do you want to be designing the systems? Because if so, the CISSP is the best one out there because it touches basically the design of it. You want to break into systems, which is also part of security. Now you're dealing with the CEH master, not the CEH without the master, or the offensive security professional certification. Here's the key. When you're dealing with the AWS Advanced Security, it's like an intro to junior level security. And if you're dealing with something big. So for a cloud architect, I'd get a CISSP, since that's what you put in the chat box. And generally, you went into the best ones. CO Magazine will typically publish the top 10 certifications per skill set that they're looking for. And it changes all the time. So what we do is we look at CO Magazine, we talk to hiring managers, and we talk to recruiters. And Darius, I took the CISSP with 0 experience and passed it inside of 5 days. You can take the exam with 0 experience, and what happens? You get CISSP certified, and they call you Dash Associate. And what does that mean? It means you passed and did the entire CISSP curriculum. And until you get the requisite experience, they don't call you the full CISSP, but everybody knows you're a full CISSP and you took the full CISSP exam. Okay, so let's get back to the content. And then we do, if you guys can give me the following. A hashtag AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. And if you've not subscribed and hit the bell, please do so. If you haven't given us a like, please do so. If you haven't told a friend to watch this free AWS Bootcamp, please do so. If you've not gotten the hands-on level lessons, please do so. I had one of the people on my team with good engineering background make these lessons for you to do so. So please do the lab demos. I'm an architect, so I describe how the technology works. That's why I had some of the engineering people from my team do the engineering piece. So I want you to do that. And there's a companion ebook, which will also explain some things we may not have been able to cover in a 15-hour boot camp or something like that. So please, please get the free ebook too. Combine all things together and dominate this simple certification. Get a practice exam and you'll be in good shape. I want you all to be highly successful. That's why I'm teaching you these things. Okay, going back to the content, let's talk about Lambda. I got to tell you, all these cloud providers have these cool little serverless mini functions. Azure has a function, AWS has Lambda, and let me tell you, this is really cool stuff. And if you're doing multi-cloud, you're going to be using Lambda functions in AWS, and if you're in Azure, you're going to be using Azure functions together. You're going to have to set them up a little differently, but they're pretty similar. Lambda is a simple serverless computing service designed for very basic things, very basic things. Lambda is a service where you upload the code and it just functions. You don't have to think about servers, etc. It supports C#, Go, Java, Node.js, and Python. And it enables automation. Lambda is stateless, which means nothing's keeping track of anything. So once a function is done, it's over with. If another function needs to occur, you'll have to set up a second function. Remember, it's stateless. Function 1 can't tell function 2. Nothing's monitoring it. Now, Lambda is really useful in many situations where automation can really increase the efficiency of your technology and decrease management interventions. So processing data across multiple systems, remediating security events, and patching of operating systems. I love this, love this, love this. Amazon Lambda can be run in response to events such as events in the VP say, hey, somebody put a bucket, they had the misconfiguration, Lambda function, kick off and remediate right then and there. So Lambda functions, Azure functions are awesome. So let's go back to my video example before. I pop a new video in a bucket. Lambda function, send the team message to move the bucket for transcription, etc., etc. Awesome, awesome. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'll show you a little bit about how these Lambda functions can be used. Going back to my video application, I upload a video, drop it in object storage. A Lambda function does the following. It sends it to be transcribed and then dumps the transcription via another Lambda function to a bucket that says transcription. The Lambda function then sends the video server to send me an email. Guess what? It's ready. And then at the same thing, my optimized video can be compressed and sent to a bucket. Lambda functions are really, really cool. So if Lambda functions are automating across your VPC, is there ever a time where we'd like to do automation closer to the users? Like in a web environment? Well, yeah. Think about this. We've got the CloudFront content delivery network. What if we could run Lambda functions or do automation things before it gets to us? Enter the world of Lambda at Edge. So what is Lambda at Edge? Nothing more than the ability to do a Lambda function at the CloudFront content delivery network location. There you go. There you go. So let's talk about step functions. As I mentioned, Lambda functions are stateless. Lambda function 1, do X. Lambda function 2, do Y. Lambda function 3, do Z. That's really what we're talking about here. Trying to do all these things all at the same time. But there's no state, so there's no way to coordinate them. Ding, ding, ding. Amazon made a great way to coordinate your Lambda functions. They called it step functions. It's a scheduler. That's how it works. You basically set up Amazon Step Functions to do the following. You set up your workflow. This comes before this, which comes before this. And then Step Functions will actually schedule the functions to work in your workflow. It's super, super, super cool. So basically, how do you do it? You design the steps of your application. Then you create your individual Lambda functions. So design the flow, architect the flow, and design then your engineers determine what each function is. They build them, they create them. Then somebody has to configure it to go function 1, function 2, function 3. And then you connect the individual workflow components to the individual tasks and Lambda functions, and every step is executed in normal use. Beautiful. We design the steps. We create the functions. We configure the workflow. We connect the workflow to the Lambda functions, and all of a sudden it just works. Now, with anything in tech, do we think it's static? No, we're going to learn things over time, so we should optimize and evaluate the functions as needed. What's it look like? It looks like this. Over here at the top, we got the brain, the Amazon Step Functions, just the task coordinator. Then what do we have? We have step 1, Lambda function is executed. Step 2, Lambda function is executed. Step 3, Lambda function is executed. Step 4, Lambda function is executed. Isn't that awesome? I think it is. Amazon Rekognition is a way to analyze videos and images using machine learning. So imagine you're a company and you're producing tremendous amounts of video. Now, magically, all your videos, everything's going great, and one of your executives just gets arrested. And you don't want videos with this person's arrest being seen by people. Amazon Rekognition can identify the problematic individual, so your video editors can remove them or kill the video because you think it might be brand damaging. Now let's think of this. People's facial expressions can tell you a lot. And we can use Amazon Rekognition to determine people's body language and recognize facial expressions. Again, it's automated, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to give you some guidance. We can look for unwanted video content, for example. I saw a person that submitted a video resume to me at one point. And in the background, there was some drug paraphernalia as it pertained to smoking something. And if this person used Rekognition, they could have made sure their background didn't have anything that was damaging to the interview. I'm not joking, it's happened. Next, for example, the ability to be able to search for a certain person, as I described to you. We can look for things inside of a video. Maybe you made a video, but you've got some logos from other people and you don't have permission to use those logos. We can search for that. So Amazon Rekognition is a great machine learning application to help you identify things that you may otherwise miss. Which I completely like it. Love it. Now, the next service is called CloudFormation. This is something that I would advise you never to use in your entire career. And here's the reason. If you design a really good infrastructure and you use a really good infrastructure code such as Terraform, you can migrate and deploy 2, 3 clouds, move stuff around simply, because it's open standards. And if a cloud provider raises your rates by 50%, bye, cloud provider, I'm going to the next one. Cloud provider doesn't like your business and kicks you out. We've seen this happen in the past. Terraform, goodbye. I'm opening another cloud in 15 minutes. So that's why we don't ever recommend using these proprietary tools. And CloudFormation is the most proprietary infrastructure tool as you can get at AWS. Terraform works on all clouds. So we advise you not to use those. If you're concerned about your customers' long-term success and freedom and ability to use multi-clouds, high availability, high security, high performance. But if you want to know for the exam what is CloudFormation, it is an infrastructure as code solution that is Amazon proprietary. It's a way where you can basically write your code and auto-deploy your things, just like Terraform. You make a configuration template with the text or supported programming language, etc. AWS CloudFormation templates are available for a wide variety of options. You can get them pre-made in many cases, or you can write your code from scratch in either JSON format or YAML format. Your code is either stored locally or on object storage, otherwise known as S3, and your code is used by CloudFormation in the console, CLI, or API. And CloudFormation, just like Terraform, will provision your systems based upon the template. CloudFormation will deploy your template across your infrastructure, just like Terraform, or rebuild your old applications for new applications, just like Terraform will do. CloudFormation has the concepts of stacks, and all resources are managed by the CloudFormation template are called stacks. So now you know exactly what is CloudFormation. Again, it's a proprietary version of Terraform. If you use Terraform, you're going to be in great shape across all your clouds. The AWS Certificate Manager. The AWS Certificate Manager is a service to essentially manage your SSL or TLS certificates in the AWS cloud. Certificate Manager adds protection to websites by using certificates to establish safe and secure SSL-based connections. You know, when you go to a website and there's a little box, it's because you're using a certificate. And if you ever get a warning by your browser that says, website, we can't authorize, we can't determine if it's safe or not, it's typically because their certificate is bad. So the Certificate Manager will enable a user to deploy certificates on the AWS resources quickly and effectively. It provides free public certificates to AWS services like load balancers or APIs. So here's a little bit more about the Certificate Manager. Let me show you visually what it looks like. Bear with me while I go to my monitor that I've got that ability set up. Here we've got a user. They use the Certificate Manager, and they generate an SSL certificate for their systems for encrypted communication and endpoint identification. Great service. Lots of places to get certificates. So the Certificate Manager, you've got two options. For normal purposes, you go to the AWS Certificate Manager and you get certificates which can be deployed on your load balancers, your content delivery network, otherwise known as CloudFront, your API gateways, etc., to improve the security of your communications. But what if internally you wanted a certificate to do encrypted connections between your internal users and internal people? You can do that too with the Certificate Manager. But here we go to the Certificate Manager Private CA. And this is used within the organization. It allows the organization to create some hierarchy and create some additional security. They can put we can issue certificates for users, computers, application services, servers. But remember, these are private CAs, which means they cannot be used on the internet, and you do pay for your private certificate. Let's talk about another service. I don't know if we actually talked about this. If we haven't, I'm going to bring up GuardDuty very quickly. Amazon GuardDuty is an AWS service to monitor your AWS accounts, and it'll look at your CloudTrail logs, your DNS and VPC flow logs. And we did talk about this, and it'll look for patterns of behavior, and it'll alert you, hey, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. Lastly, I'll mention Amazon Macie, which is a fully managed security data privacy service. Actually, we talked about this before as well. Okay, next we're going to get into cost management. And before we talk about that, I want to see if there are any questions that are out there.
So I've got two questions from the same individual. They kind of answered their question without realizing it, but I know you would like to elaborate.
Excellent. If a solution architect isn't technical, why do SAA courses contracting, designing, configuring, and building infrastructures, not executive skills? Here's the reason why I created this company. The solution architect courses don't teach anything related to the solution architect job at all. And here's the reason why. The 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8X and 10 certified people spend years trying to find their first job, and they can't get hired. And they go in an interview and they get told, come back when you have more experience, which is a euphemism for you didn't do a good enough job. Please share the LinkedIn post in this chat box that I made for this. And that's the problem. The solution architect skills are a mismatch for what's going on. It got so bad, and I'm not joking, it's so bad, and it's so near impossible to hire somebody that, literally speaking, Gartner decided to say, hey, wait, that we can't find architects. We got all these certified architects, but they don't know anything about architecture. So literally speaking, Gartner started asking the chief information officers who actually run the organizations and say, what do you want in a cloud architect? And they said, we would like someone that can lead the cultural change for cloud adoption. We want someone that can develop and coordinate a cloud architecture. We would like someone that can develop a cloud strategy and coordinate the adoption process. We would like our cloud architects to find talent with the necessary skills, assess application software and hardware, create a cloud broker team, establish best practices for cloud across the company, select cloud providers and vet third-party services, oversee governance and mitigate risk, manage the security budgets, manage budgets and estimate costs and operate scale. Hey, wait, what didn't you hear there? Any kind of coding configuration or anything. And my team can put the link to that article. So that's why, my buddies and I realistically looked at these things. Cloud architects don't touch the tech. We design, present, and sell. And people that have all these certifications, they go on interview after interview after interview and can't be done. So what I actually did before I did this was not only to speak to recruiters and hiring managers and say, what's your problem? And they all said, hey, Mike, we got everybody that knows how to code and configure and Linux and Terraform, but I don't know anybody that knows design. And I said, and I said, well, I just watched some certification courses and they teach screen sharing configuration. And realistically speaking, I knew nobody would get hired from that. Nobody. I then interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people to see if I could get anybody hired. Not a single one was hireable. Now, I'd previously interviewed 5,000 people in my career because I spent the last 20 years helping people get hired or getting promoted. And I've asked thousands of hiring managers, and that's why this year I've gotten about 100 people cloud architect or solution architect jobs. Some of them were behavioral health technicians. One of them was a landscaper that owned a landscaping business. Somebody was a food server. Somebody else was selling shoes at Nordstrom, because they're architects and they have architect skills. So there's a difference between certification. Certification has nothing to do with what we do. None. There's no architect certification. There's things that have it in the name, but there are none. So that's why we're here teaching what people actually do. Can you use the SAA certification as a cloud engineer? I'm going to tell you this right now. The SAA and SAP certifications are cloud engineering certifications. Well, actually, they're more cloud admin certifications, but they're closer related to cloud engineer. Now, what do you need as a cloud engineer? Well, cloud engineers just don't need to know the name of a service and how to configure that service, which is what cloud certification is. The cloud engineer needs to know, what is the service? How does the service work? How should we use it? And how do we performance tune it? So I'll tell you that the SAA, the Certified Solution Architect Associate, and the Certified Solution Architect Professional for the engineer is about 20% of what they need to know. They still need to know the networking. They still need to know the data center, the BGP, the OSPF, the type of WAN technologies to use. How do you address your systems? How do you set up your network, segment your network? What kind of network, your IP addressing plan. The cloud engineer still needs to know all about block storage, object storage, and file storage, and none of the junior level cloud end certifications, but hundreds of pages of knowledge. Your cloud engineers need a deep knowledge of load balancers, etc., how to architect them, or how to implement them, and how to design them for maximum performance, how to tweak them. Where a cloud admin is just configuration, the engineer needs to know what to do and how to do it. Now, the cloud engineer is also going to be needing to set up these systems. Remember, they're a builder. Architects are designers. So this cloud engineer is going to be an expert, or needs to be an expert with Linux system administration, because they're going to be using it. The cloud engineer is going to be deploying infrastructure as code, so the cloud engineer needs to be familiar with Terraform, very familiar. The cloud engineer is going to write a Python script to automate in a bash script. So here you can see you got two careers that couldn't be any more different. And one is not better than the other. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, the architect is nothing without the engineers. We depend on the engineers for their deep technical knowledge. They depend on us to bring in the money into the company so they have jobs. It's a mutually agreed upon thing. I'm going to tell you right now, I love engineers. I love them, love them, love them. There's no architecture without engineers. None. Architects design. Who do we consult with? Hey, we work together. Hey, an architect designs a house, and there's a structural engineer that makes sure it doesn't fall apart. Eric, is Rekognition basically a form of AI? Absolutely. Machine learning AI, that's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. Good. Understood. Hi, Laura, how do you extend an EBS size via command line? Laura, I'm an architect, and I've been an architect for 25 years, and architects don't configure. So I wouldn't even know where to begin. But I would do, Laura, if I wanted to do this, I'd find it to be very easy. I would go to the Amazon website and ask, how do I extend an EBS volume size? And poof, it's going to pop up and you'll have your commands that are ready. So I will give you some guidance from my engineering days before I was an architect. At every time, go to the manufacturer's documentation. They're going to list you step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. But Jada, is it worth doing the AWS Advanced Networking certification for architect roles? Not at all. I'll tell you what the AWS Advanced Networking is. And sometimes I like to teach, and I might even teach one next month if there's a desire for it. I'm thinking about it. The AWS Advanced Networking is a brilliant intro to junior level networking. So the way I look at it is we could use the AWS Advanced Networking as a precursor to a CCNA level networking. And the cloud architect really needs somewhere between CCNA and CCIE level networking. So doing the AWS Advanced Networking, and I may do another one soon, I do them periodically because I'm a network architect by trade. And I've got 25 years of networking. In fact, my CCIE number is 7417. That's how long I've been in networking. I often like to do the AWS Advanced Networking with my students that are brand new and say, hey, here's your intro to junior level networking. And then I like to do the CCNA, which is kind of your intro level networking. And then my students get bombarded with BGP and WAN optimization and route summarization, aggregation, and all the heavy duty stuff they actually need for the job.
So people keep asking for the article. We've shared the link several times in the chat box that the link is what is a cloud architect. So it's in the chat box for those people that are asking for it.
Okay, excellent. So that box is in the chat box. And you can Google Mike Gibbs and in DevOps Magazine, I'm talking about it, and Information Week, I'm talking about it. I think in Tech Republic and Tech Radar, people come to me because I've been such an expert in the architect community. I must have been in 40 magazines, and you can check some of those magazines either by Googling me or going to the media page on the gocloudcareers.com website. We're not doing so great keeping our website up to date. And just barley, it doesn't matter what your degrees are or lack thereof. I've gotten people that haven't completed high school cloud architect jobs. People that are still in college get them. People that have associate degrees get them. Lack of experience is not the issue. Competency is the issue. If you're competent, you'll be fine. If you're not competent, you're going to go in an interview and they're going to say, come back when you have more experience. Hiring managers interview someone, and I want you to understand this. We have no time to interview people. None, like zero. To interview someone means we work late. If we have to interview 4 people that day, it means we're going to work 3 or 4 hours late. So we're not going to bring anybody in for an interview that we're not willing to hire. Now, when someone's bad on the interview, we can say, you're terrible, and smack them aside the face, and they're not going to be happy. Or we could say, come back when you have more experience. So when someone goes on an interview and they get told they don't have enough experience, it's because the hiring manager didn't want to hire them, not because they weren't competent.
And just to follow up on that, the fact that you, out of 1,000 people, were called for an interview means that they know what your experience is and believe that you, out of 1,000 people, are worth an hour of their time. These are people that have full-time jobs outside of interviewing people that have to dedicate hours and hours to interviewing. So they know what your background is. So if you get an interview and then they tell you your experience isn't good enough, that's not what it is.
Exactly. Perfect way to put it, Chris. So let's talk about cost management. And as a rule, people don't come to me in my career for cost management. Actually, before we do this, everybody that wants to get their first job, please join me in the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Register in the chat box. The link is in the description below, etc., etc. And before we get back to the content, if you can give me a AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate 2022 in the chat box. But my team just posted a link to this webinar. Please join this webinar. You won't be confused with what you need to know then. Okay, let's go into cost management. And people usually come to me and they say, Mike, I need digital transformation. Just make it work. But cost always is a factor. Seriously, it's always a factor. And we want to basically provide the most transformation at the lowest cost. Always. Now, if you need super high levels of availability, that's going to jack up the cost a lot. But businesses always have to evaluate, what is the cost of downtime? A bank that's down for 10 minutes can lose millions of dollars in those 10 minutes. Millions. A hospital that's down for 30 minutes can have people die. I'm not joking. So in those environments, we have to budget in far higher costs because availability trumps death. In other environments, like if my cat Cindy was having a website, I'd be looking to shave the cost down because she's the cat and she's just trying to share photos of her pretty little hands, her nice little whiskers, the little fur on her chin and her tail. So it's all based upon the business requirement. But one thing is for sure, when you take an organization from the network and the data center to the cloud, it changes their costs. Does it improve them? Sometimes. Is it more expensive? Sometimes. Is it cheaper? Sometimes. But it will have a profound impact on the customer's cost, for better or worse. In most cases, moving to the cloud will result in a lower total cost of ownership, meaning you may 10 times more for a server on the cloud than you would in the data center. But in the cloud, you don't need millions of routers and switches. You're not buying these physical load balancers. And you're not using all these physical things that require a large staff, a huge data center, a ton of real estate to manage it, and a large team. So moving to the cloud may be cheaper. It's like rent. What is the cloud? You are renting out somebody else's network in a data center. If any of you guys have ever rented a house, guess what? The landlord bought the house for one price and rented it to you for more. Otherwise, the landlord would be out of business. It's obviously cheaper for the network and the data center to be built because the cloud provider is building a network and data center and renting it out to you and making money. But here's what we need to look at. Moving to the cloud changes the capital structure of the organization. It changes from something that's very capital intensive, CapEx, to something that's operationally expensive, OpEx. Now, is that a good thing? In your certification, they'll say it is. Yeah, the shift to cloud goes from OpEx to APEX. And what you see in a certified person that's never been an architect is they write papers. Isn't the cloud great? We go from CapEx to OpEx. Now, when you speak to the CEO or the CFO and you tell them that, if you don't know more about that, you'll be escorted out the room so darn fast and your replacement will thank you for the new job they received. Now, when is capital expenses better? If an organization's got a ton of cash sitting around, it might be cheaper for them to buy it than to pay more expensive fees to rent it. If an organization's capital cost for borrowing, if their weighted average cost of capital, which is definitely part of your business case that you always have to look at, meaning the percentage of finance charges an organization's going to receive, and they've got 18 different lines of credits going on like most business, the cost of capital is their weighted average cost of capital, so that needs to be counted. So if the weighted average cost of capital in an organization finances something at 1%, it might be cheaper for them to purchase it and pay the finance fees than it is basically use the cloud, which is leasing it. Otherwise, for the architect, it might be cheaper for the company to buy nothing if they've got no cash and pay higher rent fees on the cloud. So really, it's about how is the organization financed? What's best for the organization? Well, you will have to build a business case. And you know what, as a cloud architect, if you are one, or you're part of the cloud engineering team working with the cloud architect, the best thing for the company might be to take the data center they have and turn it into a cloud like an OpenStack and Nutanix cloud, and then burst to a cloud like AWS. You may find the best solution for your customers, get rid of everything in the data center, it's all expired, deprecated equipment, and use two clouds. So the cloud will change the cost structure from pie, like your house, to renting like an apartment. Now, what's going to be going into some of these decisions? The data center has huge capital costs. You got to buy the building or you're leasing the building. So if you're leasing the building, it's an operational cost. If you're buying the building, it's a capital cost. Now, in this data center, you're going to have thousands or millions of servers, right? Okay. They are high capital costs. In your data center, you're going to have routers that are going to be directing traffic, switches where your servers are going to be plugged into, physical firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and they're going to be things that you buy, and they're not cheap. You're going to be buying these great load balancers from F5. You're going to be buying racks. in the data center, because data centers, I've never seen one have a power failure except for the one in Amazon. You're going to be dealing with multiple power companies coming in and trenching in high voltage and high amperage wiring. You're going to be dealing with multiple transformers coming in. You're going to be dealing with generators. You're most likely going to be dealing with backup generators. You're going to be dealing with batteries and UPSs. You're going to be dealing with power distribution units. Now, I'm going to tell you, these systems generate heat in the data center. For example, lots of it. And you're going to need massive air conditioners. And can the data center run with an air conditioner that breaks? Nope. The data center will go down. So now you're going to need backup air conditioning systems too. So these are the kind of huge capital costs that go into a data center. What is the cloud? A data center. It's nothing more. Now, the data center itself is not without its operational expenses. So imagine you got 10,000 servers sucking electric, and you're paying for it. So huge electric bills. Now in your data center, you got to connect to your 10,000 remote locations. Now you've got 10,000 private lines, VPN lines, and 10,000 routers on one side and 10,000 routers on the other side. Oh, God, now we're really getting into big expenses. Your internet service provider connections, etc. But in the data center, most of your costs are for equipment. And the other costs are management. Now you got a data center. You need a bunch of CCIE network architects like me to make sure the systems are designed well. Then you need a bunch of CCIE level network engineers, whether they're certified or not. Then you need 1,000,001 Linux engineers to maintain these things. And you need sysadmin people to run these things and operations departments. You can see your own application. Managing your own data center can get real expensive. You want the best performance, lowest latency, manage your data center. You want the most agility, flexibility, and simplicity so you can focus on your business and not the tech. You go to the cloud. It's brilliant. So let's think about the cloud environment. It could be helpful. In the cloud environment, you don't pay for anything ahead of time, very little ahead of time. So you lower your capital costs. Brand new business, no money. Cloud is great. Nothing to purchase. They can focus directly on their business. But when you use the cloud, the organization pays to use the cloud a lot for everything they do. Now they pay a lot. For example, you may buy a machine learning server, a really good one, for $100,000, and it may cost you $100,000 a month, every month, to use on the cloud if you use it full time. Which could be, 3.6 million versus 100,000. But let's think about this. If you need to use that machine learning application for an hour a day, now the prices seem to get better. Now there's nothing to finance, nothing to think about, and it's much more agile. And you need more capacity. The cloud can keep growing. So it's about determining what's right for your customers' goals. How do you determine this? Business requirements. Where does every architecture start? Business requirements. Nobody hands us a piece of paper and says, build this. We got to determine this so we can propose the right solution for our customers. So think about managing thousands of subnets and all the routers in each location is huge teams of people. So shifting to the cloud will result in a shift from capital expenses to operational expenses. So is it good? Well, maybe. Is it not good? Maybe. How do you know you build a business case per customer based upon the transformation they're trying to receive? Let's talk about managing costs. And here's where the cloud excels if we use it correctly. Step one on the cloud, only provision what you need. So let's think about what that means. It means if you go to the grocery store because you have 3 friends coming over and your friends all like chicken wings, don't buy 30,000 chicken wings. Buy the 50, 75, whatever you think your friends are going to eat. Provision all what you need. Now, part of this is knowing what your systems use. You got your virtual machines in your data center, and it's got 16 cores, virtual cores, and then after your 16 cores, it's got 32 gigs of RAM, and it's working fine in your data center, and all of a sudden it's 50% CPU in your data center. What do you need in the cloud? The identical thing. You know it. And you can provision it. You potentially can reserve it long term. Let's talk about sizing your resources because they're very different in the cloud than the data center. And this is where the cloud excels. And just this, is the main reason most people go to the cloud. It's this auto scaling. So now let's talk about resource sizing. Now, in America, the busiest shopping day of the year is something called Black Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. It's called Black Friday because organizations are often in the red or losing money. And then they enter Black Friday and everybody goes on a frenzied shopping spree for Christmas, Hanukkah, and all the other holidays that are occurring at the time. Huge frenzy shopping spree. So in the data center, the traditional data center, here's what we do. We do the following. We deal with that Black Friday, that Christmas sales, and we say, okay, on Black Friday, we need 10 web servers with 128 cores and 6 terabytes of DRAM. And we buy all those 10 servers, and they sit idle all year at 2 and 3%. And we're just waiting there, powered on, sucking up electricity, doing absolutely nothing. A lot of stuff to buy. Now, let's talk about the next thing. In the cloud, how do we provision it? We look at the average utilization. What's going on all year? So instead of having these big $100,000 servers that are sitting at 2% utilization all year long, here's what we do. We bring in what we need to go most of the time. So we bring in a bunch of small servers, and they're just sitting there. They're happy, happy, happy. They're doing their happy dance. They're working smooth, and life's good. Now, out of nowhere, we know Christmas is coming. We add some additional capacity, and we allow auto scaling. And at Christmas, we go from what we have, we expand all the capacity what we need, and granted, we're paying for it when we need it. Christmas is over, and we shrink it all down. So on the cloud, you size your systems based upon average workload. In the data center, you size based upon peak workload. So here, huge potential for savings here. Now, the more we can decouple our architectures, adding queues in, for example, the further we can reduce the size of our systems, reducing our further costs while enhancing our ability to do things better, faster, and cheaper. Step 3, use the right computing platform. Use the right computing platform. And what does that mean? It means, remember we talked about on demand. If I'm going to start a business and I don't know what I need, I'm going to go on demand. And I'll purchase what I use and pay for what I use. Now, I also talked about reserved instances. Let's say Noni the cat starts a cat shoe business because she makes cat shoes, etc. Now, when Noni the cat wants to sell her shoes, she's got her website. Now, Noni the cat's got very predictable sales. She sells $15,000 of cat shoes per day. Now, she knows that that's every day. She gets a certain number of orders, and the servers are sitting around 50%, and they've got lots of room. So now Noni the cat says, I'm going to purchase and commit to a reserved system. I'm going to tell AWS that I'm guaranteeing to use 3 servers for 3 years. And AWS will give the customer, will give Noni the cat a massive discount because she's prepaying ahead of time and guaranteeing them business. Now, you may deal with the following thing called the spot instance. So let's say Noni the cat decides that she's gonna do some cool stuff, and Noni the cat hires Cindy the cat's dad, me, hires Sonny the cat and Chris over there, and in this particular case, we're designing our system together. Now, I hire a bunch of application developers. I got a lot of programmers in my company, the programmers in my school that want to become cloud architects, and we train them to go from programming to architecture. It's great. And I asked them to write some code. And they developed me a custom application that on Saturday is going to need 500 servers for 1 hour. And it's not critical. It's a batch job, but this is going to process a huge amount of information to make Noni the cat very profitable in our cat calendar, cat shoe, cat photo, and cat video business, okay? So here's where we're going to use the spot instances. Why? Because we're going to get the cheapest rate possible for leftover capacity. What's the best thing to use? It's usually going to be a blend of on-demand spot instances, reserved instances. Step 4, manage costs. This one is going to be controversial. When you leverage managed service and serverless, in many cases, for example, In many cases, what we're dealing with is as follows. We're dealing with, if I put my systems on Fargate, which will scale as needed, it might be cheaper than if I put them on a virtual machine. Here's the problem with this. When you go serverless and leverage managed service, you get either a cookie cutter design, which may not be exactly what you need because it's managed by somebody else, and it's much harder to leave the cloud provider so they raise your rates. So this is one of these things, etc. Step 5, limit your data transfer charges. AWS charges you anytime you move your data. So if you've got an object storage bucket for documents in the US, and you've got people in Japan that are accessing the same content all the time, it might be cheaper to replicate your data and store it in 2 places than pay the data transfer charge. What about transfer charges in websites? Using a content delivery network can often make your systems cheaper by not going across the Amazon network for your systems and by reducing inter-region department charges. Now let's talk about data in and out of your VPC. If your traffic is minimal, it's probably cheaper to use a VPN. If your traffic's extensive, it's often cheaper to use a private line or direct connection. Let's talk about some other tools in this category. The first one is AWS Budgets, and I think this is a great service. I recommend all of you do it before you do any labs, and I'm pretty sure we showed you how to set it up in one of the videos, 99% sure. Here's what AWS Budgets is. An organization sets up a budget and alerts. We are willing to spend $10 million this month. Alert me when we hit 5 million. Send me another alert at 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million. And at 10 million, you've exceeded your budget. Now, it's not going to shut your systems off, but it'll give you the opportunity to determine what to do or not do. Let's talk about the AWS Trusted Advisor platform. It's an online tool to help an organization optimize their spending. It works by scanning an organization's infrastructure. It'll compare it to best practices, and it will make some recommendations, advice, etc. Basically, there's 2 versions of Trusted Advisor. On the basic and developer support plan, you get access to 6 security checks and 50 service limit checks at the time we made this content. And on the business support plan or the enterprise support plan, the company gets 115 Trusted Advisor checks, 14 of which are cost optimization, 17 are security, 24 are fault tolerance, 10 are performance, and 50 are service limits. Remember, this is Trusted Advisor. It's an automated system, so whatever information they give you, it may be great, it may not be, but it is a place to start. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about building high availability architectures, and here's where I get into a stage of cognitive dissonance. If you need high availability, true high availability, the only thing you can do is either a hybrid cloud, meaning a data center plus a cloud, or a data center plus 2 clouds, or multiple clouds. A single cloud is a single point of failure. I'm going to say it again. A single cloud is a single point of failure. That's why no cloud provider was able to deliver 99.99% last year, because clouds have outages, and we must expect them. There's no internet outage single point of failure. We've seen the AWS cloud go down a bunch of times, the Google cloud go down, the Azure cloud go down. We see big companies with expert people such as Facebook have major outages. A Canadian internet service provider, Rogers, was down, and it took down the emergency services system and so many things because people didn't put all their eggs in one basket. If you ever want to buy stock, I don't recommend you buy a single stock. I don't recommend you put all your money in a single stock. And if you get a basket and that's all that you had full of eggs, I don't recommend you carrying it by yourself and dropping the basket and losing everything. I recommend that you diversify your systems, diversify your portfolio, etc. So when it comes to building real high availability systems, we need to understand multi-cloud or hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. If the cloud's network goes down, the entire cloud is down. If the cloud is hacked, the entire cloud is down. If the control plane or the orchestration plane of the cloud gets down or has a bug, the whole cloud is down. So don't use a single cloud when it matters. Now that I said that, I'm going to tell you the stuff that you need to know to pass your exam, which I would never do in a real architecture. But there's a difference between certification exams and reality. So let's talk about what is high availability. It means your systems are there when you need them. And typically we refer to availability in terms of nines. 99 is 2 nines. 99.9 is 3 nines. 4 nines is 99.99. And 5 nines is 99.999%. And actually on our YouTube channel, if you want to see how to design a high security, high availability cloud architecture for real, we've got a video on our YouTube channel. It was a live stream. We spent a couple hours on it. But let's keep going into teaching it the way for your exam. Most organizations would consider high availability to be 99.99% or greater. Many organizations require much greater levels of availability, like an internet service provider because the world depends upon them, a bank because seconds of downtime can mean millions of dollars, healthcare organizations because if the systems are down, people can and will die. They often require 99.999% greater availability or greater. So let's see, what does this mean? I'll put it into you. 99% available. That's not good. You're going to be down 3.65 days per year. When I started in networking, this is pretty normal. 3 nines available systems, 99.9. That's kind of what you're dealing, typically speaking, with a home internet provider. You're getting something like that, where you're dealing, realistically speaking, with somewhere between 99 and 99.9. At 99.9 or 3 nines, you've got 8.76 hours of downtime. In some businesses, this could be millions, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of lost money, or a lot of people dying. So let's talk about what AWS is referring to, generally high availability, which means 2 availability zones, assuming they don't have an outage. That is 99.99% available. Could AWS deliver that last year no matter what you did? No, not even close. They were closer to the 99.9 or 8.76 hours of downtime last year globally. But who would put all their own eggs in one basket? Nobody that knows better. That's why 80% of some customers are now talking on 2 clouds, and 97% of customers say they want to be on 3 clouds by the end of the year, within 12 months or so. So everybody's going multi-cloud. Now, when you need really high performance, 99.999%, this is tough to achieve. I've been doing it forever. You're dealing with 5 minutes of unplanned downtime per year. So how do we determine what is the cost of downtime? See, it all comes back to the business case. What happens if systems go down? So what goes into building a single high availability system? No single points of failure, which really means no single clouds. But it means redundant power coming into the devices that plug into the cloud. It means redundant cooling, meaning multiple ACs. It means redundant network connections, which means if you're connecting to the cloud, you buy one link on AT&T, if you're using AT&T, and another link on CenturyLink, Verizon, or NT&T. You never use 2 service providers from the same company to connect to the cloud. Hey, wait, the routers that are connecting to the cloud, we want them using 2 power supplies across 2 circuit breakers. We want 2 brains in them, otherwise known as control modules. Multiple line cords with our connections so that if anything fails, we still have lots of our connections. Same thing for switches, redundant switches everywhere with redundant connections to our servers to multiple switches. Load balancers are a high availability device. Why? They remove single points of failure and increase performance by sharing the load across multiple devices. DNS is part of our high availability structure. How do we make sure that if an availability zone goes down or data center goes down, we shift it? But really high availability systems say, wait, how do we architect it that if my clouds go down, we're still good? Storage. Store your information, backups. Your application should be redundant. Anything that matters, you need more than one. Now, here's what we're talking about. AWS maintains redundant power. Theoretically, then again, they had a cloud outage, so they said they said that they had a data center power outage, which this really means they either had something other than a power outage, 2, they were the first major data center to have a power outage, or they don't have redundant power, in which case they don't know how to build a data center, which is not true. But if they don't know how to make a redundant power or a data center with redundant power, you shouldn't do business with them. But they know how to do it. These guys are smart. guys, girls, whatever was working there, they're incredibly brilliant. So they know how to do this. They maintain redundant air conditioners. They have multiple redundant internet connections across their backbone, redundant routers, redundant switches. So here's the only thing that you have to deal with AWS. When they go down, you're down. So according to your certification, if you need high availability, which is considered 99.99% of the time, which is 52 minutes of downtime per year, use 2 availability zones. Might be better to use 1 availability zone and 2 clouds, but it's up to you. Now, on a single cloud provider, if they say you want 99.999%, then you should be using 2 availability zones in 2 or more regions. But again, cloud goes down, it all goes out the window, you got nothing. Something my grandmother would call bupkis. So anything that needs some level of high availability should be in something called multiple data centers, otherwise known as availability zones. You should have redundancy in your virtual machines, your databases, your load balancers, and your DNS. Redundant network connections, like you said before, on different service providers. You may need a primary direct connection, a backup direct connection, and maybe even a VPN backup. So the connections have to be across different providers because you got 2 links on AT&T to the cloud. The AT&T network goes down. You can't reach your system in the cloud, and you are down, down, down. So keep that in the back of your mind. We network architects, we're always designing across multiple providers. So initially we talked about it, but I'll give you a little bit of examples. Here we've got an organization, they've got a direct connection, and they've got a VPN backup. But here's the thing, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. That's the Navy SEAL model. I like to say 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is greater than 2 because I design systems that generally speaking don't go down. Because I know what it means to take things redundant. Now what about redundant direct connection? Sure, we can do that too. We can do a direct connection to one place, a direct connection to another place, but the point is, 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is greater than 2. So let's talk about the security of the environment. If your systems aren't secure, you're going to be hacked. If you're hacked, you go down. So realistically speaking, use the principle of least privilege, disable all unnecessary services on your systems, regularly patch your systems to security updates, use some good anti-malware protection, use a good encryption strategy, keep unwanted traffic out of your systems with next generation firewalls and IDS IPS systems, and use network access control lists, security groups, host-based firewalls, etc. For the devices that are connecting to your cloud, get some good physical security. If and when you need passwords, use good passwords. And backup your good configurations, your bare minimum, either something like have your DevOps engineers make a Terraform code that actually can deploy infrastructure as code of things that are good. So if something happens and you need to start fresh, you backed up your data and you can build it up. But data, back up, back up, back up. Create an image of all your systems and put it in some secure location. Back up your data constantly. And one backup should be in an alternative location in case anything happens to your location. Adding to your system performance, use auto scaling. We talked about how that could help with DDoS, but also how it can help your system. Decouple your architecture components, cache things when possible, use redundant DNS, and use load balancers because they remove single points of failure. Use monitoring, use logging and auditing functions, look for systems alerts, look for security breaches, look for usage, and look for performance. And then change management. Realistically speaking, in high availability systems, let's say me and Cindy, Chris and Sunny, and Abigail and Noni all have a system when we're working together. Now we're all sharing the common network. If Abigail's Noni the cat reboots one of my routers, that might take me and Cindy and Chris and Sunny down. So keep that, so just kind of look at it that way. So what needs to occur is change management. Before Abigail and Noni the cats reboot a router in the core of the network, they call me, or this is an email. Mike, if I reboot this core router at 3 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, will that cause a problem? And I'm going to look and say, nope. And Chris is going to look and say, nope. So Abigail and Noni make the change. And then after the change, which has been approved. Me and Cindy get on our computers and we check and we see everything's working in my department. And then Chris gets on the phone and sees everything's working in his department. Now, if things weren't working in his department, Chris and Sonny, they would know to call Abigail right there, and Abigail and Noni would go fix it. So that's what's called change management. If you can't build a high availability system without change management. So I'm going to give you a little guidance on passing the exam, and then if you have some questions, I will be able to answer some. Passing the exam. Look, these exams are not complicated content, but they really can make these questions a little on the challenging side. And these questions cover a wide variety of topics on and off the AWS curriculum. And most of the questions are geared towards how would you be if you could only just push AWS products? So they're very proprietary questions. And the way AWS questions makes these questions challenging is as follows. Look, the cloud systems are very simple compared to traditional systems. One example, for my CCIE exam, it was 75,000 pages of reading and about 1,000 hours of preparation. For the Google Professional Cloud Architect, I spent 2 8-hour days reading a book, passed the exam a day later. I used that as a proof of point. I hadn't worked on the Google Cloud at the time. I'd worked on plenty of other clouds. So I just wanted to see how quick it would be if you knew the concept to pass it. Nothing. But the way AWS answers the questions, there's so much obfuscation in them. And it's just buzzword, 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 buzzword. And I'm going to tell you, when you take these exams, the questions, the hardest part of the exam is trying to say, what question are they really asking me? That's going to be the hardest one. In fact, maybe we'll do a day where we answer some questions for you guys live online and walk you through how we would answer them and why answers are right or wrong. So there's that. But maybe if you guys want, we'll do that. I might have me or maybe some Abigail from my team or somebody from doing it with you guys, et cetera, et cetera. I may talk to my team and see who would want to participate, because it's not really, certification passing isn't really our main thing. Our world is getting people hired, but I'm going to look into that for you guys. And remember, the questions are really wordy. So here's my advice. Get a good night's sleep the night before. Get yourself a practice test. I'm going to tell you who I really like for certification is Andrew Brown. Andrew Brown is a very good, strong ed tech professional. He's got a team of people that take the content and prep it in a manner that it's ready for the exam. And I think for an additional 15 or 20 bucks, he will give you lots and lots of test questions so you can easily pass this exam. Another good practice exam company is Review and Prep. My friend Haman Sharma is the CEO there. We're good friends. He has great questions. Really, the key for this is get used to the way AWS asks the questions. Now, I'm also going to tell you this. You're going to get these questions, and there's never going to be a great answer for half of them. So just choose the best answer. And when in doubt, choose the one that uses more AWS services than any other answer. It's probably the right one. Because vendor services are really about a vendor promoting the products to some degree, and a little bit about training. So what I advise you to do is watch this video again, this whole session again. If there's anything you didn't understand, Google it along the way. Look at the diagrams in the book. Read the book as well. Read the AWS white papers covering the services in this book. So read the white paper on CloudFront. Read the white paper on S3. Read the white paper on EC2 instances. Read the white papers. What are they? They're sales papers written by people at Amazon to influence an industry. I've written lots of white papers in my life. But they also pull a lot of test questions out of the white papers. So read them. And then get a practice test. And literally speaking, hammer these questions and answers. When you can get a 95% or better on rotating through these questions, schedule the exam, and then it should be relatively easy for you to pass. So that's what we recommend. Now, at this point, I'm sure there were some questions that built up. I saw something popping in on soft skills, something popping in on an architecture thing. So let me answer a few of them if we have enough information. And then on Monday at 9 a.m., we've got an opportunity for you to come in and ask questions. On Monday is 2 p.m., Wednesday 9 a.m., and also on Friday. And Thursday, for deep questions, I want you to come join us on the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And if you're an architect or engineer, we'll still answer. We'll present for about an hour, and we will be on Zoom, and we will let you come off mute, ask questions, and we'll be very specific and detailed for you. Because, for example, if you want to say, I want to be an architect, I might say, what kind of architect? A generic architect, a more enterprisey architect, a more security architect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to give you that kind of information. So let's say I can answer questions for a total of 15 minutes max. Chris, so whatever we can do in the next 15 minutes. Did you update the book since last February? No, Majida, we really put so much overkill into that book that it'll work with all the new certifications. We really put a lot into that. So no, we didn't need to update it. AWS made some recent updates and we updated. Here's the thing, Majida. 99% of the stuff on the cloud is the same things we've been doing for the last 30, 40 years in that data center. So we got pretty significant into what those things are. So you'll be covered for a couple of years with the book that we actually wrote, the way we actually wrote it. Can I elaborate on the soft skills that our site offers? Sure. So I want to make this clear, Cruz. Soft skills can raise your salary by more than 30% in any job. For cloud architects and solution architects, it's impossible to get hired without good soft skills. And even for the engineers, the difference between a $150,000 cloud engineer and a distinguished cloud engineer earning $250,000 is mostly soft skills plus domain expertise. So we focus on the following. How can you walk into the room and look at somebody who's depressed and make them happy? That's basically called your emotional intelligence. So we spend a tremendous amount of time talking about emotional intelligence. Now, we also spend a tremendous amount of time, how do you read the room? When you're talking to the hiring manager and they don't like what they're saying, what do they do? When you should talk more, what do you do? Now, if, for example, you're going to build a team of 50 cloud engineers to do your architecture, which we do, they don't work for you. So you're going to have to convince them to work with you. And that involves, how do you sell yourself and working for you? And Cruz, that means developing relationships with the executives in your organization, finding out what they need, finding out what it takes to convince them to loan you their people, and finding out what the people that are going to be working for you, the cloud engineers, want. And honestly, part of being a cloud architect is working with the engineers because they're the keys to all the technical wisdom. And you're the key to the business information to close the deal. So if you're working with a cloud engineer, I generally ask them, where do you want to be in your career? And I try to mentor them along the process. And that way, they're helping me with the tech that I need to know, and I'm helping them get to their career goals. Now, Cruz, it's not soft skills, but we teach the CXO relevancy because if you talk to the CEO about your EBS volumes, you'll be escorted out of the room and you'll replace them and say, thank you for the brand new job. So you need to know what to say to the CEO versus the CTO versus the CFO. Now, Cruz, you're going to also have to deliver presentations as an architect. And reality, if you want to be a high-paid $250,000 engineer, you need to do the same presentations, presenting at industry conferences, training of people. So you've got to be able to know how to present in the fewest number of words possible. Now, next, it's considered soft skills, not considered soft skills, executive presence. Today, we're going to talk about passing the AWS exam. The AWS exam is. Now, we hear that. Now, when we communicate, 55% of the content is what we look like when we say something. 38% of the content is what we sound like when we say something, and 7% is the content. Today, we're going to talk about the AWS cloud. The AWS cloud can truly transform businesses through its cost structures, adaptability, and scalability, allowing businesses to focus on running their business instead of managing their technology like the traditional environments. And you need to do that. Now, Cruz, we're going to be negotiating deals as architects, and they're going to be upwards of $1 billion deals. I've been involved in them for decades. And here's the thing. When you're negotiating, you've got to separate the person from the problem, determine your best alternatives to a negotiated agreement, know when to pause the negotiation, know when the negotiation is ready to give in, know how and when to let them save face. And of course, we have to teach that because you won't be able to do the job without it. Now, when you're dealing with an executive, for example, Cruz, and you're dealing with the chief information officer for a company, and they've messed up, and they've truly had a big outage, you need information with them. And if you say, what'd you do wrong? I can tell you what the meeting's like, run along, and your replacement says, thank you. And if you can go in there in an open and a friendly and a warm, non-judgmental environment, and you're there, and you could say, I want to help you. Could you give me some information as to what's going on? Do you have any logs, etc.? The people are going to be willing to help you. So it's knowing how to ask the questions. Now, Cruz, as architects, nobody hands us a piece of paper that says build this. We've got to ask the executives and elicit a lot of information. We've got to go to the teams of people who may be getting laid off after they move from the data center to the cloud. So maybe we can retrain them. So we've got to get information from others. Now, Cruz, you're working on a 50-person architecture team, and your main person doesn't feel like working. They'll come in the office like this. How do you approach them and get them open and get their needs supported? Now, we also get involved in a lot of difficult conversations. We have to lead teams. Sometimes somebody on the team doesn't want to work, and we need to be able to work with them and get them to be willing to do the job and not destroy the relationship forever, enhance the relationship. So, there's a lot of that. Now, some of it's related to emotional intelligence, and controlling your emotions. Some of it's related to the communication skills. Some of it's related to your leadership skills. Some of it's related to your executive presence. Some of it's related to sales skills. How do you sell something to a customer? How do you sell yourself on a resume? How do you show the customer, the hiring manager, that even though you have no experience, you're an asset to their team and you can make their team better? That's your soft skills. I spent, realistically speaking, leadership skills, soft skills, etc., not including the other skills. There's probably at least $100,000 of training between me and the company that was put into soft skills training. And mind you, I learned a lot of soft skills training through the practice of internal medicine, because it takes a lot to practice medicine. And I'm going to say that's where I got it, not that $100,000 of additional soft skills training. But that's still part of it. So they're just a sample of the skills that we actually have to teach. And it's impossible to get a solution architect job without most of those skills. And it's impossible to get into that $3 and $4.5 million range without those soft skills. That's why we focus so heavily on them. And, oh, by the way, you're going on a job interview. You know something? I want an architect. If I tell you that less than 50% of the interview is related to their competency, but the additional 50% is related to their attitude, their communication skills, their soft skills, their energy, their enthusiasm and passion, their trustworthiness. So when it comes to winning the job interview, that's what you need. Because 40 or 50 out of 50 is not enough for the techies. You need all of that. That's how you get hired. And imagine you're a new person and you're only 40 out of 50 on the technical competency, but you're 50 out of 50 on these. Now you're at 90%. In the last 6,000 interviews that I've done, seeing anybody above a 75%, we call them unicorns. Unicorns. And we hire them so fast. That's why my students get hired all the time. That's how we can take people from uncertified to hired, certified to hired, but they're not getting hired on certification alone. Except the CCI, that generally can get somebody network engineer certification on its own. Do I think a hybrid solution is a great option? I think it's the best option. Hybrid solution, highest performance networking in the data center, lowest latency in the data center, most flexibility and control in the data center, and have the cloud for the scalability, the agility. So I think it always has to be a hybrid cloud or a hybrid multi-cloud or a multi-cloud, but I would never just use a single cloud. Are the available metrics associated with downtime per year as an industry standard? No, these are standard numbers that across all industries, networking, power companies, everything. Good question, though, Art. Forrest, what's the biggest gap between the current AWS solution architect space, Fortune 100 SME startups? Where's the biggest need of architects? Generally speaking, architects are in the biggest Fortune 500 space, because when do you need to hire a $200,000-$300,000 person per year? Big enterprises. All industries need them. Know who pays the most? Generally speaking, financial services, because they have the biggest budgets. Far, far greater than anybody else. Logistics could use is fine to work in if you know a lot about it. Retail is fine to work with it. All industries need them. And here's the reality. I once worked on an industry-specific consulting team. I was the lead architect for a healthcare vertical, and it made sense. Why? I could practice medicine, and I was an expert architect at designing high-performance, high-availability systems. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But really the key is everybody needs architects, everybody. So master what you know and love, and you'll be good to go. I think that's the last question I can actually take today. Banu, thank you. You're so welcome. David, you're more than welcome. Thank you so much. Derek Houston, yes, yes, yes. Derek, welcome back, and I'm so happy to see you. Hope this week was a good start back. Leonardo, thank you very much. Go Cloud Teams, it's been great learning here. I've been so happy you were here. From Germany, even though you're from Brazil originally. Love this. Forrest, thank you for an awesome course. Forrest, thank you so much for being here. Derek, I'm so happy to see Mike and Chris. Great session today and all week. You're happy. Delhi Squared, thank you, Mike. You are so welcome. Vegeta, thank you so much, Mike. Always a pleasure. Please tell a friend to catch up on this. We spent a fortune pulling these boot camps off, 6-7 people. Mick B, AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. You know what? Can you all give me one last AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate in the boot camp? Austin, thanks so much. It's invaluable. Austin, I'm thrilled you're here. Mandu, thanks, Mike, for this knowledge. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Virginia P, thank you, Mike. You appreciate your bootcamp. I'm thrilled you're here. Martin Howard, thank you so much. Martin, I'm happy you're here. Tech D47, thanks so much, Mike, and everyone for this course. Terry Glassek, thanks for everything. And AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Chow Pham, thank you for your help. AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. And Mick B, thank you, Mike Nugafor. I really love it. I'm so grateful for that name. Chris and the Blue Wrenchers for an amazing boot camp. Derek, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Mr. Gee, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. And Derek, thanks, Mike. We'll be joining the program soon. We can't wait to work with you. Majida Begum, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Thank you. You built 2 patios from your house and 1 for the garage, patios for cats. I own at least 4. Greatly appreciate it. They do catch up on you, Eric. They just steal your heart. Thank you, Chris. Amima, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Ivadaika, thank you, Mike. Everybody, we're going to be seeing a lot of really cool blogs from Ian Ivadaika coming very, very soon to help you with your cloud and solution architect interviews. Go Cloud Careers, life is good. Yes, I love that. Virginia P, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. And Charles Finney, AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. Paul Gregg, you are so more than welcome. I am so happy that you are here. Applause to the people who stuck in for the day. Yes, Chow, you're one step getting closer. Yes, absolutely. Hand of God, Mighty Mike, thank you for your time, Mr. Mike. May positive energy and blessings keep pouring on you. Thank you so much. You're my hero and grand champion. I love when you're here. Thank you so much. Alonzo Coleman, love being here at Go Cloud Careers. Alonzo, so much. Eddie Patrick, he's a fantastic architect. He's in Bamenda, Cameroon, and he's part of my team. And Eva Doike, your Blue House team, thank you so much. And Kit, thank you so much. I'm going to end on the following. Please join me for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar on Thursday. It'll be on Zoom. We'll tell you everything you need to do. On Monday at 2 p.m., I'll be back online with Chris. You can ask me any kind of cloud career questions you want, and I'll be honored to answer them. It'll be fun, fun, fun. We are currently offering 30% off of everything we have using coupon code POTENTIAL. If you want to get hired, we want to do everything we can to build your career, get you promoted, get you paid more. So I've asked my team to give us a coupon code for 30% off. Use coupon code POTENTIAL, and it works on pretty much every program we have. And lastly, please follow me and Go Cloud Careers on LinkedIn. I will be with Eva Doike posting about 11 or 12 more blogs. We got everything from edge computing to interviewing coming your way, and I'm real excited about it. After that, we've got more really great articles coming your way, etc., etc. I will have lots of magazine articles coming your way as well, because we're contributors to multiple magazines in the industry. So we'll have lots of content to help you build your best cloud computing career. So thank you all for attending. Seriously, take advantage of the 30% off coupon code potential so we can help you build your best careers and best lives. I can't wait to see you in the next video. We've got lots more free stuff coming. It's going to be fun, fun, fun. So please give us a like, a comment, a subscribe, and have a good day, everyone.